All systems nominal.
You wanna know what the weak point of a mech is? The fucking pilot.
Get away from her, you bitch!
His papers say he was a raven.
Protocol 3.
Welcome to On the Shoulders of Giants, a giant robot power hour discussing mechs across media, their stories, and why we love them. I'm Brian, I'm your host this week, and I am joined faithfully by Alice.
Hi, I'm Alice. I failed out of my first level physics class in college, so I'm excited to go over this series.
And Nico.
Blowing up Jupiter. This too is Yuri.
I'm so glad I wasn't the one to drop Yuri. I'm so glad I wasn't the one to drop it first. We'll get into it.
This time around, in case you couldn't already tell, we are discussing the first ever iteration of Hideaki Anno gently cradling the audience and whispering, what if this cool girl needed a toxic relationship with a scumbag to function? It's 1988's Gunbuster, or Aim for the Top. Let's launch into it.
This fucking show.
I think we should have we need to all circle around and say we experienced this together.
We need to take a calming, meditative breath.
Yeah,
I didn't watch this. It consumed me and I consumed it. We became one and became a black hole of emotion together.
That's beautiful.
I thought I could do something else while I watched this. I could not. Not the least of which I was watching in Japanese with subtitles, but I was trying to play. I've gotten back into Animal Crossing, trying to just do some idle fishing while I kind of glance back. No, I barely understood this watching it with my full attention. If I had watched it while seriously not paying attention, I would not be here today. It would have killed me.
There is so much that is just casually glossed over. That is like
it's 24 episodes of content in 6 OVAs.
It's a full Evangelion of concept.
There's so much.
There's one guy who's 7 guys.
He's 7 guys.
Gunbuster is the English name. Aim for the Top is kind of the Japanese translation. It is supposed to be kind of a fusion of Aim for the Ace, which is like an old, very famous tennis manga / anime, and Top Gun, which that...
Really?
For those who have...
I didn't get any Top Gun vibes.
I didn't get any Top Gun vibes whatsoever from this.
We need to go on the record right now. Alice is the only one who's seen Top Gun, to my knowledge.
Yes, that's true.
And I fucking loved it, and I fucking loved Maverick, and I have no apologies that I fucking loved Gunbuster.
You and every other girly on Tumblr. So
yeah, just to give some other little tidbits that I've kind of managed to dig up, I do have to digress and say that on my fully legally obtained copy of the Blu-ray of the full OVA series, which is 6 26-minute episodes, there was a bunch of special features. There were voice actress interviews. There was composer interviews, and none of it had subtitles. So I cried all day.
You didn't watch it just for the vibes?
I watched more of it than I would care to admit, just for the vibes. I do know a couple things, which is that this is supposed to be like a pastiche of pilot drama of mech anime of the time, and also largely of like kaiju / Sentai entertainment industry tropes of the time.
And you have to also think high school anime of the time.
Of course.
I mean, it goes by really fast, but...
There's so much in here that's parody and so much of here that's pastiche, and there's also some of the stuff that's like genuine high concept science fiction action, and there's a lot of it that I wanted to puke at. But yeah, so that was kind of like one of the things that came into the concept of this, and that's also why it took so long to break into American audiences. A lot of people were confused as to what the line was between genuine and satire. I think it's safe to say that like all the mechs doing calisthenics are probably satire, but
I did have a note where I was like, why are mechs doing push-ups?
No, that was necessary.
That's how you learn. That's how you learn to pilot.
The choreographed cheerleading is just chef's kiss.
I know that for me, I also didn't know how to read it. Because we've talked before, I've never watched most Gundam. Like, the only Gundam I've seen is 0080 War in the Pocket. I don't have a long history with the real foundational mech anime. So, again, I thought Martian Successor Nadesco was being normal. I started watching this one and was like, a serious mech anime.
Yeah.
I see. Serious.
I mean, I think they kind of blur that line on purpose in a lot of ways, and I think there's a lot of fun stuff that comes out of that, and there's also kind of a lot of like, I can see why a notably, like, I'll come out and say it, just this is my personal view, that some of Hideaki Anno's character work is really scummy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like, oh, it's satire that you can hide behind to sort of push the envelope on some of the things that suck about this.
But also, I mean, I had that critical response where I was like, okay, I could start eviscerating this, or, you know, for me, when I see something that is kind of pushing it, you know, I have more criticism for it. When I see something that is just fully over the cliff, this is just like a hot mess. Like, after episode 2, I was like, okay, I could eviscerate this on feminist grounds, or I could accept that. Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah. It is super what it is.
It is so Showa era anime.
I felt
it is of its time in a beautiful way. And at first I wanted to be critical of a lot of things that were happening, and we can get into it, and we will. But it came to a point where I was just like, look, nothing in this is played as a gag. There is no part of this that is played as a gag. Every scene is played straight. And that's when I was like, I have to be in it with them. Yeah. Kind of like in Top Gun, when they're playing beach volleyball without shirts. And you're like, is this critical to the movie? Is this a gag? But they play it completely seriously. And so you're like, this is a beautiful showing of male friendship, much like Gunbuster is a beautiful vision of female friendship.
I just realized that Alice could say literally anything about Top Gun, and we would not know if that was true.
I've done a kind of...
You know the volleyball scene.
Yeah, right? Everyone knows the volleyball scene.
No, I don't know anything.
No, you've seen... Right. I swear you've probably seen a GIF of it.
You've seen parodies.
Tom Cruise is in it, and he wears Oda's sunglasses.
He does wear Oda's sunglasses. All right, so with that as kind of our vibe check, I can summarize the general events of this.
Yeah, can you summarize what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, make sure to cover the entire timeline.
Okay, so to summarize this piece of meat.
Yeah?
Noriko Takaya is a bumbling, crybaby military school student who has a huge crush on her idyllic senpai, Kazumi Amano. Her dad died in the maiden voyage of an intergalactic star cruiser that was attacked by aliens, which are not mentioned for a long time. The sole survivor is an angry, one-eyed man with a guilt complex who will call coach because everyone else does. After a disastrous training exercise, Noriko is inexplicably chosen to enter special training with Amano, starting a series of colliding jealousies that turn into something really ugly that I don't want to talk about yet. Anyway, Noriko has a heated lesbian awe moment and decides to push herself to become a better pilot at Coach's behest and for Amano's benefit. They go to space, having brief teenage Top Gun hijinks like experiencing trauma responses from seeing the hollow shell of your dad's destroyed cruiser, falling in love with a dumb boy who immediately dies, fighting with your best friend because she doesn't think you have the chops and is correct, going full Shinji core until you pilot the special Mech Gunbuster for the first time and save the day, and having time dilation melodrama. There's some really clangy shit involving Coach, and then we learn that Gunbuster is actually 2 jets that combine into the ultimate anti-alien killing machine.
You find that out really late.
And as Noriko and Amano finally reconcile and save the day. The final episode jumps us 15 years later, where we are constantly reminded that a horrific marriage took place and the plot of the previous episode is recycled, but bigger and in black and white. We get a heartwarming sequence where Earth welcomes its 2 heroes back who should have married each other instead of a sleazebag. The end.
Yeah, I mean, a couple notes, but unfortunately that's what happened.
You didn't mention the hero's return journey took 12,000 years.
We're going to talk a lot about time dilation and black holes in this.
I know, but there's time dilations of like 6 months, 5 years, 10 years. And then there's...
Yeah, so...
Do they have like food and water and a toilet in the cockpit?
No, for them,
it was very brief.
For them, it was a Tuesday.
I thought for them it had to have been like months.
No,
okay.
it's pretty instantaneous.
They give
after
the calculation, don't they? They're like
They do.
1
I just thought there
second
was
is
like a
like.
static variable of like, if it takes that long, then it must have also
Well, no,
taken...
that's what I'm saying. Like, if we know the variable, we can calculate exactly how long they were in there because we know it took them 12,000 years.
Right.
Because they said 1 second.
No, because that variable only counts because they did do the 1 second is this. This does not account for the fact that they just detonated a black hole, which throws everything in a loop.
Physics and shit.
So yes, comma, it's how fast you're moving in space is actually how the time dilates. But we can't get into that right now. I don't want to keep talking physics of time dilation.
I do briefly want to mention that this is not mentioned in the OVA, but there's like a companion series called Science Lessons where they just talk about the concepts. Those like accretion disk things they go into to enter subspace are called in the media Tannhauser gates as a reference to Blade Runner, which I think is fun.
Hey, and also a reference to the theoretical Tannhauser effect.
Sure. Yeah.
Which says you can fold space together to jump between it in a subspace in theory.
So you're in a sci-fi movie and you go to your science teacher's house and he says, well, the universe is actually like this sheet of paper. And then he folds it and sticks a pencil through it. You know how in every science movie that happens?
I was just thinking of that. Wow. I didn't realize that was a trope.
That's literally what it is.
I thought I was privy to a cool thing that happened. Dang.
No.
No, there's so much in this that's references to other things. Like, this is so chock full of things.
Yeah.
Like, Russian girl, red-haired Russian girl.
Wait, hold on.
You mean Young Freud?
Yeah, no, you cannot just say Russian girl. Her fucking name is Young Freud. That motherfucker's name is Young Freud. Hideaki.
Yeah, it's real subtle.
We gotta throw to the break.
Okay.
Young Freud.
Young Freud. We'll be back.
Hey, Nico here in the break. Just wanted to let you know that while this is a podcast, and we'll always do our best to describe visuals we're commenting on, we'll also include links to the mechs and images we discuss in the show notes, and post actual photos on our show website. Along with that, make sure to check the show notes for content warnings as appropriate to the episode. That's all for now. Back to the show.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I don't know what that was.
Welcome back, y'all.
Brian's trying out for voice acting in the 90s.
I'm trying out for the only American character in a Japanese anime in the 80s.
Yeah, you're ready to become Smith Torin.
By the way, he's named after a Canadian manga translator. I guess that was just like a random shout out, just like a guy.
Just a dude.
Yeah.
Just a guy.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, the first episode of this, I really loved. Like, I thought I was in for a great time. I mean, I kind of was.
You really think you're in for something else?
Yeah. Because we get Noriko, and she's, like, talking about how her dad died and how he was a war hero and all that stuff.
And that's why she's going to Mecha All-Girls High School.
By the way, we split mech pilots and their academies into women and men, so they can never intertwine. This is very critical.
You think that a character being named Young Freud is the major indication you'll get that Hideaki Anno did therapy. Unfortunately, Freud starts real quick. I don't want to use the gender politics trope. Don't make me use it.
We're not going to use that, but we are going to say that Freud ruined humanity.
Yeah.
This is the official stance of OSG.
Official stance. We all sign off on that one.
So we get the whole layout of the school, which is just a lot of it's mostly gym class, except for the brief periods of actual high school where she just like leans out the window listlessly looking at
mostly eats lunch.
The gym class that's also still going on while the homeroom is happening.
Well, what this is and what all the anime high school tropes kind of gloss over, this is a military academy.
Yeah.
So,
it's a selection for the intergalactic war against the aliens that have suddenly appeared.
It's so easy to lose that in the fact that all the mechs are doing field day all the time.
So most of the mechs that we see for like literally the first 5 episodes of this are all just called RX-7s.
I was gonna ask you what the title was, but they're all it's a mass production thing, right? Like
It's
they're
a
all
mass
just
production
the
thing,
same.
but if you look closely at all the high school sequences, they do have like team uniforms. Like there's blue ones and red ones, and I'm just like, I am obsessed with it.
I wanted to point that out. So that is a reference, and I know Nico is going to agree with me on this one. That's a reference to the different years that they are in.
Sure. Yeah.
So in
yeah.
Japanese high schools, you wear slippers with a color corresponding to the year, and in assembly, you stand with your year. So it's, she's a blue mech with white because she's a first year. Her Oni-sama is red because she's a third year.
See,
I thought it was
said
really dope.
Nico's going to agree with me on this. Don't go where I can't follow. I did not know that.
Okay.
We're all learning today.
All right.
So I posted the best image in all of the first episode in the chat, which is the pyramid.
Yes,
it's so good. You gotta check the attachment, check the show notes, because there's gonna be a picture. In fact, I'm gonna try and find a video of the entire sequence of them just doing field sports, and they're doing a standing pyramid, and they all turn their heads and turn, and it's
my very brave spouse at one point watched that super popular cheerleading documentary that was on Netflix, and all I can think about is these mechs crying and screaming and beating each other up, trying to go to Jacksonville, Florida to win a cheerleading trophy. Just their mascara running, and they're like...
But I mean, like, other than this, not a lot actually happens here. Like I said in the summary, like...
It's a very base plot. This first, it's good, but...
Yeah.
It's so much of an introduction, and it's a story we've now heard a million times.
Yeah.
It's just high school tropes. It's like, okay, here's a freshman. She's kind of got a chip on her shoulder because of circumstance. In this case, the circumstance is her dad is dead. And, she gets bullied by upperclassmen, and she meets a kind mentor, and she has a nerdy best friend. Like, this is like every 90s girl movie in the U.S.
Yeah.
It
is.
I do want to say at this point, we start laying some groundwork for this show, which is, it is Top Gun. And what I mean by that is we start learning people's call signs, which you might call nicknames if you're not a Top Gun head like me, but we call them call signs where I'm from. And so we learn that Oni-sama, Kazumi Amano, hers is the Rose Queen.
Yeah, that was so... Who is giving these out?
Because when she appears and Noriko sees her, she's fluttering with roses and it's flowery, and she's seeing her future wife.
And there's Yuri bubbles and...
Oh my God.
It's full Yuri in an all-girls school. And we also learn what Noriko's call sign is, which is the Daughter of Defeat.
I know.
Which is a beautiful
You
nickname.
do not have to do that to her.
She took the biggest L before getting into a cockpit for the first time. But then she gets to do a cockpit for the first time and takes a bigger L, so...
Everyone in school laughs at her. She can't get her mech without the stabilizers to do what everyone else can handle.
In the bonus episode, when we talked about would we pilot a mech or not, and I talked about how I can't fly the ships in No Man's Sky, like, this is exactly what I would look like if I was trying to do this.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting that she has a conflict from the jump in that she's very physically capable.
Yeah.
But she's not particularly technically oriented. And she struggles in the cockpit, especially between something which is very relatable to me as someone who looks at the keyboard when she types. She really struggles with manipulating the controls and watching the monitors, which will become relevant later.
Yeah.
It's really good, too. Like, okay, let's just get into Mech RX-7, right? I want to jump into how the mechs are designed in this. So every mech in this, they have a lot of mechanical shots, and they're interspersed, and they're not explaining to you any of this. And so it's basically, they have a Portacola screen and a couple of other Portacola screens on the side, and they have like cranking arms that click and shank.
They make the best noises.
Yeah.
They're so good. And like the heads move, and there's like, you can see the materials in the head when they pull off the carapaces.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, everything is so mechanical. But they open in the dumbest way possible, which is right in the middle. 2 hydraulic pistons lift the top from the bottom, and that's just where the cockpit is. And that part is egregious, I don't like it.
I like it better than being in the head. But yeah. Also, that seems like a major point of failure. If your top and bottom are made to come apart, I feel like that's a failure point.
That's a huge failure point, but I approve of this design if only for the fact that it causes a really funny scene where Noriko gets caught eavesdropping later.
Yeah.
Specifically because of this mechanism.
Yeah, she leans back, and I did love the switch, because apparently this is activated by, like, forcing your chair all the way back and it hits a switch and then it opens.
Yeah.
Because she does that by accident in shock and then it lifts and she's revealed. But
it's
yeah.
so good.
We are at Mech High School. A bunch of shit happens.
We also see our second mech, which is written by Oda, who shows up, right? So our former military captain, who is going to be their coach, shows up on the second mech, which is a Super Cub, one of the greatest motorized scooters ever made.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, did I miss something? What the fuck is she talking about?
I was like, it's 50-50 between the bike or the crutch.
Or the glasses.
Or the sunglasses. I never know with Alice.
But yeah, another thing that happens is Noriko, is in the bathroom or something, and they're having a weird meeting about her right outside the bathroom, and she overhears the fact that he put her on the program with Amano because of who her dad was. So we learned that.
Yeah, so we skipped over that point, but it was in the summary. So her senpai, One-sama, gets picked for obvious reasons. She is the champion person in the school.
She's the Rose Queen.
And then, yeah, she gets picked allegedly because during that exercise where she couldn't control her mech without the stabilizers, which to be fair, a lot of people struggled with that, but she was the only one who couldn't make her mech move. She was forced to get out and run 50 laps herself as a person, and apparently her actually doing that is alleged to be the reason she was picked. Like, it showed that she had guts or whatever. But yeah, then the bathroom conversation happens, and it's like, nope, it's because...
I have to pass this Nepo baby because I'm a cryptic Cyclops, and I don't...
Can we talk about Coach?
We gotta talk about Oda, who shows up in sunglasses and takes those sunglasses off for maybe 2 scenes in every episode.
I was obsessed with him for 80% of this show. I really liked him in these episodes. He delivers such a good speech.
He's walking with a cane. Yeah.
About working hard and pushing yourself and why it's important to blah, blah, blah.
Do you remember the other important mech from the high school part, Alice? Which is
what was that?
Iron motherfucking sandals.
Oh my God!
That's what I thought this was a gag. That's what I was like. Oh, this is a joke show.
That has to be a joke. That's 100% a joke.
It is a joke, but it's played straight. Yeah. They're like, wow, this is so admirable. And I was just sitting there like...
Noriko's watching her with stars in her eyes while she trudges up these steps in metal sandals and a diaper. It's so...
Oda is telling Noriko that is she actually works. She wasn't born being this great pilot. She puts in the effort.
It's the difference between talent and skill, yeah.
Yeah, which I appreciated as a message. Yeah. Unfortunately, the rest of the show happens.
Yeah. So the other plot critical thing about these first 2 episodes that happens is that she is seen doing her special practice and getting chosen by Reiko, who is straight up Satan and hates her guts because she probably doesn't deserve to be there. And Reiko's just another pilot.
Yeah, so you think One-sama is more set up to be the typical Ojo-sama trope, the haughty older female student, but it turns out it's this chick, it's Kashiwara, and she picks a fight with our main chick.
She's a straight bully. She's a straight bully down to the fact that she's the gym teacher later. That is straight up
the school bully to gym teacher pipeline is intact in this show. It's intact.
She has a redemption arc.
Literally in the first episode, that's it. Noriko says the name of the show. She says I must aim for the top, and then we roll credits.
Yeah.
We have 2 other things that happen that I want to point out. Number 1, we establish that you have to shout the superpower your robot is using because she yells, lightning kick!
The Inazuma kick, yeah. Where she turns off, because she turns off her monitors is a crucial detail. She turns off her monitors to execute because her body knows the motions, but she can't focus with the monitors, I guess. Kashiwara, Reiko won this fight.
Yeah, 100%.
But Noriko gets a chump shot in with that stupid super kick, and that's the KO. And I guess that's how it works, but also, if we're talking capable fighters, Kashiwara was beating her ass for 10 minutes while everyone watched. One chump kick does not, and we will find out later, one chump kick does not qualify you for space violence.
No.
Well, it might.
I had every expectation that the rest of this show would take place at Mech High School. And then episode 2, they're gone.
Nope. She granulated.
They speed run the high school arc.
It's all done in
what's
F1.
even better, what's even funnier is like, I was like, okay, that's her whole training arc, and now we're going to get into the meat of it. And then we get into episode 2, which is more training arc.
Yeah, but it's in space already. I was like, hello? Okay.
We go to space on Japan Air, which still exists in the future.
As they're going up into space at like the beginning of the second episode, we also see, personally, my favorite mech in this, which is young Freud's RX-7 that has a fucking Soviet star on it.
Soviet robot! The USSR is eternal!
It's not subtle.
You want to talk about subtle? Her name is Young Freud. Can we I need to say this again. Her name is Young Freud.
Her name is Young Freud.
I mean, it so is. Well, she's our first run at Oscar, right? I mean, she's a red-haired foreign mech pilot who's better than everyone else.
I will say something that kind of comes through with this is when this was made, which is the tail end of the Showa period, where Japan had gone through its recovery period and it still felt like it was going to become powerful. Mm-hmm. And then after the Showa era, obviously it changes from trying to regrow its military power into economic power is the thing and starting to have that division. But we still are in a post-war constructionist society at this point. So it is kind of like there is a strong Japanese national identity at this point. There is a unifying thing. But also it's very funny that that's the only nation that really kind of exists in this show. All the ships have hiragana, but there's one robot with a Soviet star on it. For the
USSR. Anyway, yeah. Young Freud shows up.
They board the Excellion, which is the carrier that this thing is straight up a Star Destroyer. I love this ship. It's so good.
It's so good.
In this ship, there are really strong vibes of both Star Wars in the shape and Star Trek in the kind of...
Do you want to know a fun fact?
Yes.
I do.
Star Trek The Next Generation writer Rick Sternbach loved Gunbuster so much that he was putting in subtle little references to like extracurricular Star Trek media that he could get his hands on. There's like devices called the Excellion in like Star Trek extracurricular like maintenance manuals they produced as like fake fan material or whatever.
That's so funny. It's like fully recursive. That's so funny.
And this also leads me to another like high concept point about the Excellion that is literally just one line and then glossed over. The Excellion is piloted in part by sentient whales.
Yes, this comes up later because you get like brief shots of orcas and dolphins way late in the show.
Yeah.
It's the sonar.
So there's a reference in a Star Trek episode where they talk about going to cetacean ops in one of the ships, which is a direct reference to the Excellion.
All I can think about is Johnny Mnemonic.
It's beautiful.
But another thing that the like main bridge where the commander is always sitting, that looks from some angles and some shots in this show looks literally exactly like Central Dogma. Literally exactly. So there's also
it's also the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The touchstones, because we had some Western touchstones on the design of the ship. I want to shout out, this has heavy influences from space battleship Yamato, which predicated this, and she does have a poster in her room.
She does.
But also then goes on to inspire a lot of spaceships in anime, like this particular one in its interior design, but also it makes Gundam's spaceships look like shit.
It really
I'm just gonna say
kind of does.
It definitely inspires the Nadesco and Martian successor Nadesco, like 100%. I understood that show better having seen Gunbuster, and it's so funny to me that I understood the parody better for having seen an earlier formative parody.
I love that experience in anime. I love the ship. I love the like hangar glass pane bathhouse bullshit. Like, I hate that it's used for a gag, but I really like the
it's a
like
good
look of
gag.
it.
I'm gonna say I love the gag. So the gag is they're in a bathhouse which has outside facing windows. The bathhouse is a Japanese style bathhouse because in this future we design space battleships that all of Earth uses with a Japanese design in mind. It literally has a tatami room in it.
It does.
Which will come up. It has a tatami room, but the bathhouse, so a traditional Japanese bathhouse usually has a mural on the wall because even though you're inside, you know, it's about evoking a sense of serenity. And instead of like a Mount Fuji or something like that, it is the U.S. moon landing.
And there's a whole point where we just look at a chick with her tits out in front of the U.S. moon landing. We got to back up a little bit.
Yeah,
so one of the things that,
I was going to say a lot happens in the second episode. Like, it seemed like it was the longest episode to me. Mm-hmm. There are basically two plots, which is like the three-way battle between young Freud and Noriko and Amano, and then the like Dr. Strangelove light speed rocket like cowboy riding sequence.
Well, what I was going to say in that cat fight between Amano and young Freud. During that cat fight, they're like fighting outside the ship initially, I think, and then they enter into, all I could think about was the guts from Prey, where it's a 0G kind of maintenance facility, and in there they find a specimen of the bug species. So we see the aliens for the first time during this cat fight, and that kind of breaks up the cat fight because Noriko has a crying, screaming trauma response to seeing the thing that most likely killed her father.
This also is such a head fake for me because there's like a sequence right before that where like they are literally posting up in fucking kendo poses and talking about fucking, like, I wanted this to be that anime so bad and it never comes up again.
No. So then the fight breaks up and then they head to the bathhouse, which I was almost on board with at first. This is something I appreciated actually in My Neighbor Totoro, which is a weird pull to pull in here. But, like, you get scenes of the family taking a bath in kind of a normal, not sexualized way. And I had hope. I had 2 seconds of hope.
I felt
that I was like, this is what we're headed for. Yeah. You know, they're hanging out. They're doing whatever. Oh, no, it's all about titties.
It is visually, they'll jiggle titties whenever they can. This actually, apparently this is called the Guy Next Jiggle.
No!
I
want that to be my trivia. That was my trivia I brought. So this is the show that starts the Guy Next Bounce, which is a woman's assets moving in very wild ways. This is where it came from.
Fully DOA.
Is that wild?
This is fan service. This is, sexualization.
I felt partially the being cursed by knowledge of, like, to me, much worse shit that comes later. I felt very generous with this sequence. Like, to me, for a lot of it, it really felt like dudes in the locker room kind of situation, but it's chicks. Then you get the point where they're being ogled, and it's like, oh, okay, so you know who was drawing this, and you know who they were drawing it for. I'll just say I liked the scene tonally because it was just fun to see them, like, hanging out after the fight and not being annoying and hating each other.
And it gives you a perspective on Young, you know?
Yeah.
Because you expect her to come in and, like, Reiko at the school was just, like, vicious all the way through. But then Young comes in and is like, hey, no harm, no foul. We kind of punched it out.
She wants competition. She's here for the competition, not in a mad way.
Yeah.
Can we talk about, because I wanted to talk about mechs in this Mech podcast, if that's cool?
No, we have to talk about tits.
All right.
Legally.
So, number one, they use extendable batons as one of their weapons.
Yes.
The weapons in this show are so whack.
But then we go into part 2 of episode 2, which is an entirely different episode.
Yeah. It's time to horsey ride the rockets and do trauma.
And enjoy the Doppler Lorentz effect, which I did write down because I was like, damn, they're pulling science out.
They did. They do some cool, like, time dilation stuff here.
This show is doing horror movie shit. I was really interested in it, like, with the horror of lost time and the world moving on without you, and when they get into light speed and she goes into the wreck of her dad's ship and is so desperately hoping, one, the lighting, the mood, the animation, like...
To give the context of what got us here. So they get a detection on the signal. There's something coming. We don't know what it is, but we need to send somebody to intercept before it gets to Earth, right? And so they're like, we got to dispatch them. Right. And the only way we can do it is we have to strap them onto Saturn V rockets and shoot them at it. And we can only send 2.
Yeah, one thing I like, going back to Nico's point about, like, this being kind of scary. One of the scarier things for me was, like, the light speed sequence of, like, the rattling of the machinery, the bounciness, like, the fact that they appear to be dealing with G forces, and the fact that also, this is just another note in general about how this show goes. They are literally just, like, raw dogging it in these cockpits with gym uniforms on. They have no spacesuits.
They really are.
They're wearing gaiters. That's the only mouth covering of any kind that they have at all.
Okay, we got to talk about the pilot uniform in this, right? The pilot uniform, so we don't see everybody in their cockpits, but who we do see, they are wearing 80s jazzercise outfits. They
are absolutely doing that.
High-waisted leotards with loose socks, sweatbands on their arms. And yeah, then they get into here and they're like, okay, we got to go. And they just pull a gator up over their face. And that's the extent.
And apparently it seals for vacuum?
Apparently.
Because later they mention like, oh, there's breathable air here, and they take off the neck gaiter.
Yeah.
Something else that we see in this scene is that they're all wearing watches, right? Did anybody else notice the watches?
Alice is on a watch.
They're Howard watches. They're Howard diving watches. They are built for high pressure or no pressure environments without losing time. They're perfect for, number one, being an Air Force pilot who doesn't play by the rules, and being a star-crossed Yuri girl. It's perfect for
I love it.
Those are the two use cases.
But yeah, so they find out the object is her dad's ship floating through space after being destroyed.
Yeah, which oh my God, the horror of this. And there's a whole bit later that kind of ties into stuff around the underworld and wandering spirits. But the idea that the wreck is still going at light speed.
Never stop.
Yeah.
Also in the direction of Earth. They were retreating back home when they got blown up.
They were headed back.
Yeah.
And there's this whole sequence where she pries open the door to the bridge. There's been atmosphere in the rest of the ship.
And there's no bridge.
There's no bridge. It's just gutted.
Yeah.
We have PTSD this whole second half of episode 2.
This is one of the only times where Noriko like has a breakdown, or I'm like, I get it. All the other times I'm like, oh my fucking God, girl, please.
We'll get to the one that I literally had to stand up and walk away. It was so cringe.
There's the drawing of the totally gutted hull looks so visceral and veiny. There's a lot of painted shots of destroyed mechs and destroyed machine parts in this that look incredible.
The way, so she jumps off with a rocket, grabs into it, and her claw digs into the brittle hull that's been damaged and drags along it as she decelerates a little bit. And then she, to get into it, just punches through the hull to show that while ships are powerful in the show, truly the mecha are the powerful thing here.
Don't respect them that much.
One thing that we kind of glossed over that's important here too is that Coach, or Oda, is the sole survivor of this wreck and also has to deal with this as he goes in to rescue her, which is kind of intense.
Not really dwelled on.
But we don't get any interiority on him at all, really.
Yeah, no. At this point, he's still sunglasses man, so.
Also, the only time we see him piloting one of the units, despite being the instructor for the units.
Yeah, I wondered if that was about his leg, but we just were not given more information about him.
It's Top Gun logic. You just need to know that he isn't in the rotation anymore, but he can still teach the young guns.
We get into the third episode, which is called First Love, First Sortie, which all the episode names are amazing. They're all super old school.
I want you to dry read every single one for me after we get through these, because they are just chef's kiss perfect.
Let's catch up really quick. Episode 1 is called Shock. Big Sister and I are going to pilot together. Episode 2 is called Daring, the Girl Genius Challenger. And then episode 3 is called First Love, First Sortie.
They're so good.
It's so good.
They're really good.
There is so much fucking exposition happening at this weird wedding party or whatever the fuck is happening.
They give you a whole thing on theoretical physics and time dilation.
Yeah.
It's just white text on black background. And in the back, there is a Showa era karaoke between Coach and Amano.
Yeah.
I had to watch it twice. One to read what was on screen about theoretical physics, and one to listen to lyrics, and the lyrics are amazing.
Oh my God. This part was so funny to me because I'm like, is this the discussion of war and late stage capitalism over warehouses of this show? Like, they're going to give you all the information you need about two things, and you won't even have a visual to distract you about physics and about this apparently crucial relationship between Coach and Amano.
We can't talk about it.
Because at first I thought it was going to be a gag lampshading the idea of there being tension between these two characters.
I thought so,
but I was generous.
Last fucking second, I thought that was what was happening.
I was too generous.
Oh, I gave it too much credit. But yeah, we have our like crush moment where Noriko falls in love at first sight with knives from Trigun.
Oh, you mean Smith Torrin, noted pilot Smith Torrin, who has Von Kilmer vibes. It's beautiful. I love him.
He's so awful. Well, this happens.
I like it kind of. I like their stupid bullshit. I like that he kind of like doesn't put up with her crybaby bullshit.
Nope. If he had any other design, I would have taken this way more seriously. Unfortunately, every time I looked at him, I was just like, well, it's this fucking guy. No, so this kicks off during the Ghost Stories thing, which I love. Because there's a tradition in Japan of telling ghost stories during the summer, right?
Oh, I forgot about this. Yeah.
Yeah, and they are telling ghost stories during warp.
Yeah.
Because the ship goes down to emergency power, so the whole ship gets dark. And they're in subspace, which is a different type of space that they use for travel.
That we don't really...
And they're telling ghost stories.
Even in this world, they don't really understand subspace and how it works.
They don't understand
basically
it.
The warp in 40K is what they think it is, where demons will just appear.
It's jump space in Stars Without Number. It's why you have jump shields. I love the sci-fi trope of, well, we can travel faster than light, but you don't want to know how or what's out there while we're doing it. And they tell this whole thing about, like, some people think that the underworld is connected to subspace and the dead are wandering through it, which after the episode where we saw the dead ship flying through it, like, yeah. And all of that cool stuff culminates in her meeting this fucking guy.
So she goes on it. They have a dare.
This fucking guy.
She has to go on a dare. Again, this is the summer...
It's a test of
summer
courage.
love episode of this anime, Test of Courage.
Yeah.
It's 100% that. They get caught by Coach.
Go and tie off your headband.
Yeah.
In every episode, she's been putting on a headband when she's going to fight, or she's showing she has resolve. And she's going to tie it off to prove that she walked, and that way they can see it. And she runs into our man. And I love their interaction. And then they get caught by Oda, and it's so good.
Who has just been sitting there. I mean, I'm assuming he was sitting there because he anticipated this bullshit happening, because every teenager does this, but he was just literally
and there are
sitting
other
in the
tied
hangar.
headbands. So there's a visual storytelling happening where it's like, they've made people do this before. You know.
But yeah, then as punishment, they have to clean. This is such a cool thing to me. I love this. They have
really
to
cool.
polish the Canon lenses, the laser lenses.
Oh, yeah. Because they're lasers.
Yeah.
They use lenses.
And also, they're so comfortable just being in space. This could not be me. They're literally just trudging around.
It's such a good scene, because she is like, oh, the vastness of space, and it's beautiful, and I'm a romantic. And he's just like, I didn't want to clean one of these since I wasn't a seaman anymore.
I know, he's a working guy.
He's like, no,
proletariat hero.
I take my job seriously. I'm not here in a romantic sense. I know I can die. Foreshadowing.
While they're doing that, the command is eating space sushi, which who is making the space sushi?
Oh yeah, fucking Commander Tatsumi is a fucking weirdo. He's just like a weird old man with a mustache. I really like him.
Tatsumi is such a character because he is the unified government speaks through him, and he's just a guy, but he is like the single point of governmental authority and human authority.
Spaceship Grandpa. We get like little snippets of like, and we've gotten little snippets of like enemy activity. I mean, we got the specimen in the tank. We got the whole thing with Noriko's dad's ship, which was like, they've done all these things to sort of illustrate what the enemy can do and what it like wants and what it's capable of. And we still haven't seen a single thing move on screen yet, which I think is really effective.
Yeah.
During the Test of Courage scene, we do see mechs with their helmets moved or removed so you can see the innards, or melted, which is the first time you kind of see the battle damage. And that's kind of scary because it's not like broken apart metal damage, it's melted.
Then we get like a small stupid lover spat, which I don't understand why she apologizes to him. He's a smug asshole, and she's like, I'm sorry. Like, that sucks to me.
This is between Smith and Noriko?
This is between Smith and Noriko, and interposes also the...
Yeah, they're trying to build this relationship real quick.
They do this really fast. Their entire relationship happens in front of a vending machine.
Yeah.
And then, like, interspersed with this is the scenes where, like, Amano is trying really hard to ditch Noriko because she, doesn't think she has it, and is also kind of worried for her because she doesn't think she has it. We get the scene where she's eavesdropping and accidentally opens the cockpit. Yeah,
we're getting a lot of background right now. You started to bring up the enemy.
Yeah.
We're starting to get information on what they do and what their effects on space are, because early in the episode, the captain is reflecting fondly on this planet they're approaching. I think it's
64.
or the system they're approaching. Leaf 64, right? And he's like, a wonderful little like vacation world, basically. And when they get there, the star, which was previously, I think it was a white dwarf.
They said it was a white dwarf like our sun, yeah.
Yeah, a white dwarf. It's become a red giant.
Yeah.
Like something has accelerated the life cycle of the star, and I started freaking because I'm like, are they using time to blow up stars? No, they're cooler than that.
They're cooler than that.
Apparently,
they're so cool.
The enemy, the aliens, lay eggs in stars.
Yeah. We get this
and when
at the
they
beginning of the
hatch,
next
they
episode.
destroy them.
It's super cool.
Sorry, it's just foreshadowed here because she points out how many nebula there are, and Smith points out that means a star has died.
Yeah.
Like, it's not great that there's so many of those around. And so it's kind of like, ooh, foreshadowing.
Then we get the first sortie part of the first love, first sortie.
Mm-hmm.
We need to talk about something, and it's the fact that they use track mounts to launch the mechs off the launch platform.
So good.
It's so good.
So I love how this works because the carrier, it's a space object, right? So it has fans that open in the opposite direction and just point out into space, and then they literally line up and they get onto, like, they're on a launch deck on a carrier and they get catapulted out into space.
Yeah.
They also, something that they do here, everybody gets a nuke. They give every one of these units.
Yeah, one nuke and one spear.
Everybody gets one.
And an electric spear, and those are the two things you can use to fight these things.
Buck wild loadout. Just whatever the fuck.
So she goes out. Smith has agreed to be her wingman.
Yeah, because Amano has ditched her, so Smith agrees to be her other person.
So goes out, and we get a callback to episode 2. So when they first go to space, she sees their battleship, and she says, "Oh, it's so small, I thought it'd be bigger." And he's like, "No, keep watching. Your distance of size in space throws everything off." Because eventually they get close to it and it's huge. And in this same sense, he's like, "I'm right in front of you." And she's like, "I don't see you." Again, calling back to what Nico said, that she struggles with seeing through the screens while piloting.
Yeah.
She can't figure out what's going on. And the suit has light indicators for directions of targets that are locking onto you. And so this whole battle starts, right? Mm-hmm. We see our first experiences of the alien ships. Beautiful space fight, but I want to focus on the mech portion of it. Mechs are just thrown out there and told, just do shit. We're launching you all, just start wrecking shit.
You have a nuke and a spear. Go do what you need to do.
How we see this fight is we see it through her. We see it through Noriko. She isn't seeing shit.
It's so cool and good.
She can't figure where anything's going. Some enemies pass her and we get a view of them close, but it's red, it's blurry, they're going fast.
She gets like clipped.
We're in space, it's scary. And this goes on for a while, and she has a breakdown. She can't handle the pressure of combat. And she just does nothing and goes back.
She just cries.
She freezes. And it's really similar, I think, to the first scene where they took off the stabilizers and tried to make them run. Mm-hmm. And she gets frozen in place. And it's like she's freezing in place again, but now there are actual stakes. You're not at high school anymore.
And like she even tries, right? She's like, you need to get them when they come back to you. And she gets her little electric spear ready. And they just buzz her so fast she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Little morsel of pathos that I really liked from this too is the fact that we're experiencing everything from her point of view. We don't see Smith get owned.
No.
He just stops responding. That's all we know.
It's good.
Really good. It's really, really good.
I love this as a theme, especially with her father.
Yeah.
Because she also didn't see her father die, and when she found the ship, she didn't see his body. So there's absence and loss with nothing concrete to hold on to.
Yeah.
But also, they're not recovering the body. We see a lot of how they're approaching this. It's like, no, we have a war to fight. We gotta go.
Yeah.
And she comes back to the ship as one of the few units coming back with the nuke. She never fires. Every other suit you see landing, which they also have the nets of the catapults to catch them.
Yeah.
They don't use it, but they exist. But she comes back, they have to take off the nuke, and she's just seeing how everybody got beaten up, and she's seeing war.
She never fired a shot.
It's no longer, it's that moment that we see in Mecha a lot, where, hey, war's real, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get the kind of ending sequence of this, which is our first shot of the Gunbuster.
Getting assembled, it looks like.
Getting assembled. It's like in its little, it looks pretty cool, but unfortunately it's dwarfed by the fact that we cut to credits over a shot of the fucking alien thing emerging from the star, which is like
so good.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree.
I'm so team alien.
We are in love with these aliens, right? Like,
I hate bugs and I love these freaks. I love these little freaks.
They're so good. It's like carcinization. They're crabs, they're bugs.
Yeah.
In the next episode, they really talk about the theory behind these, and we'll get into it.
Yeah.
One other thing in this episode I want to point out, which is after she comes back and Smith is dead, which she takes very hard, right? They knew each other for half an episode.
Gotta have a grief montage about the boy you knew for an hour.
They had an indirect kiss.
They did. They brought that up. But it really is like summer romance, right? It's quick, it's fast, it's gone. But she goes to the boys' dorm, cracks open a spaceship door, which I didn't know you could do, looks in, and there's all of these men sad that Smith died, is what we're meant to assume, but they're all just sitting there like sad, and they look at her, and she's like, oh yeah, nothing I could really do for you guys. Your friend's dead. Bye. So awkward.
Yeah, she really realizes that she has nothing she can say to them. They actually knew him.
Yeah.
You know? And they all have normal hair.
She's a fake fan.
I'm sorry. He was the weirdest guy.
She couldn't name 3 of his songs.
They're like, he was the protagonist. How could you do this?
But yeah, like Alice said, we get a bunch of like exposition at the beginning of this episode now, which is about how like this science man talking to a bunch of officers, I guess. I'm unclear as to whether or not this is taking place on the ship or just like this happened at some point and we're just seeing it now on Earth or something.
It's very...
in Okinawa at the academy or something.
I think it's at Earth headquarters, but they don't tell you. It's literally just, it's a very his direction of spotlights on man in dark room, spotlights on people of power in dark room, and he's explaining. But yeah,
but this, I mean, it's kind of Sele energy, but he gives this whole rundown, which is like we talked about. They use stars as like incubation eggs to like hatch and grow in number, and the pattern of the way they've been doing this suggests that they are singularly aiming for the Earth at some point. And he says, to them, stars are merely parasitic hosts for their reproduction. Their fundamental role is to eliminate mankind. To them, we are bacteria who happen to exist within the life form known as the galaxy, and they are the antibodies that find and eliminate mankind, the bacteria.
It's so good.
He says human experience serves no useful purpose. And like, I mean, it's really good writing, and it's kind of a cool thing to think about. I also think like, I don't know, I mean, you two probably actually know more about this than I do, but I don't know if this is like injected into the cultural imaginary after World War II, but Sentai kaiju mech shit returns to this trope of like humanity being fundamentally in opposition to a superior life form or a cosmic life form, that we've broken some rule as a civilization that we can't go back on and we need to be punished for. This comes up, I mean, obviously Evangelion. This comes up in Eureka 7 too. This is like a huge thing in Eureka 7. So it's an interesting thing to think about, and it's interesting that we get it here now as we're about to actually see like alien activity. We've only seen like snippets and like little tiny moments of passage from them up until this point. We're really drilling down on like what the point is.
So couple of things on that one, because this is something that comes up, and it's 2 things. It's the post-war shame that Japan had over losing this war and their actions, because it was really a thing that they did not want to deal with the fact of what they had done and what war had wrought, but also that they had lost total war, right? And that human nature is this move towards total war and the destruction of the planet. The other touchstone here is the 1968 to 1969 student riots in Japan. So post-war babies, right, who grew up in a Japan after the imperial era. They started growing up and they were seeing what capitalism was doing. This was during the height of like that Soviet drive and everything. And there was a push against government institutions and against the fact of what we're doing is destroying our planet. There were a lot of sit-in protests. There were a lot of let's stop dealing with Iranian oil. These protests were really the youth of Japan coming up and saying, we're the bad people here. Like, humans aren't good. And that reverberates in this, and it's always kind of a theme that comes up, but really post-war and post the student riots, you start to see that. Nico, did you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, this was interesting to me because I think this is something you see articulated a lot with ecofascism. Yeah. That humans are the problem. You know, the whole "we are the virus" thing during Corona.
Nature is healing.
I think a lot of the stuff, like if you look at Godzilla, a lot of it was about the development of nuclear materials, of like fissile nuclear materials, weaponized nuclear materials, but also nuclear power and the poor handling of nuclear waste, because we really didn't understand it very well. And there's a lot of like, what choices has humanity made that nature has to reckon with? And I could definitely see that being really informed by civilian survivors of the atomic attack from the United States, reckoning with land that was poisoned, animals that were killed, people dying from things, and will be for decades dying of cancers and things like that are just, it's hard to deal with. And it was because of a major scientific leap. I think, and this may be just a read, but I think the implication of this show with the attacks launching when they launched that Lightspeed ship is that by breaching subspace and by breaching Lightspeed, humanity crossed a threshold that activated this. The alien threat and the idea of them being antibodies is supposed to be a consequence of technological transgression. And you see an escalation in technological transgression throughout this. You know, the Gunbuster thing, you know, it's fun because it's a mech, blah, 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 but it is a weapons prototype. They're being chosen for a weapons prototype program. And as we'll see at the very end of this show, the escalation just continues with bigger and bigger consequences. So this is interesting. It is also a pattern of thought that posits some of the people who've made the worst decisions represent all of humanity, and that clearly that means humanity is rotten at the core, which is an intensely cynical view to me. I find it cynical in ecofascism. I find it cynical in hardcore Catholicism. Yeah. You know, the idea of original sin.
It's also an extremely easy thing to think, especially if you're someone who's depressed and has those thoughts about yourself personally. It's easy to see that in the bigger picture. I mean, and what did they say? Biography is not destiny. Like, we do know certain things about Hideaki Anno's like mental state going into the production of Evangelion and things like that. But like, I can easily see the through line of like, I mean, that character says there is no fundamental purpose to human existence. And like, you can derive the entire thesis of Evangelion from that. You know what I mean? Especially end of Evangelion.
And again, it's a deeply cynical view.
Right.
It's a deeply cynical view of humanity and the reason that we're alive.
Right.
So I think it's really interesting. It's an interesting reason for this conflict to be happening. It's a lot more interesting, I think, than just, wow, they appeared and we've got to wipe them out. It actually has an idea behind it, but it's a train of thought that I think, like you said, is very easy to walk into, especially when you're depressed about yourself or about the state of the world. Yeah. So
most of this episode after this is Noriko crying.
Yeah. Do you ever have war flashbacks at 14?
Do you ever pilot your mech into a groveling position and cry?
Yeah. Oh my god. I love that young Freud is like, I wanted to beat your ass. What? What is happening? Now I got to be responsible for this water bottle. Oh my god.
She does switch from like, I'm angry, I'm doing the Reiko right now. She switches from that to concern really quickly, which I thought is really nice.
Yeah.
She's a good girl. But I want to shout out, we also get a very important scene here, which is during the shower scene, they confirm that Noriko and Kazumi are dating or were dating. They might have broken up, but they use the phrase,
the way they
dating?
talk about
they talk about them as
the
a
way
couple.
they talk about relationships.
They say break
in this show
up.
Is so weird.
Young Freud says like, I wanted a chance with somebody or something
with Coach, and then because Noriko is spending extra time with Coach, the joke is that like, oh, they're together now, so you know we're the ones who are free agents.
Sucks,
and then
honestly,
it's so weird.
She looks at Kazumi and she's like, "So you down?" And it's like, "No."
Yeah. Well, in the whole thing, you know, young Freud jokes is like, "Well, I wanted a shot with Noriko." There's a weird way that they talk about relationships and sexuality and intimacy and stuff in this show. And then also partnerships, and then also the mentorship.
There's kind of a cosmic background radiation effect of like, you know, the show is so cavalier and makes so light of all these tropes being employed in the context of sending children to war. So that's going to like retroactively age them up. And so we're going to
This show has a lot of tone tension.
It does. And so it makes it easier for the script to kind of like drop things like, oh, are the teacher and the student dating like it's no big deal? And it's like, a lot of anime actually does that. But this especially for me because this is where we start to get this weird tension of like people being in love with Coach that for me came out of fucking nowhere.
He is not a desirable man. There is a scene in here. He's in the tatami room.
I'm gonna disagree. I found Oda very desirable.
He's in the tatami room doing go against
The
himself?
space to Tommy room.
This man is nothing. This man is nothing.
He has some good lines here. I mean, when he's talking to Amano and like she's talking about how like she says like you can't clean up or you can't put spilt milk back in the glass, and he says, well, you can pour a new glass of milk, which can either be read as like mistakes can be forgiven and we can always try again, or you're both replaceable, so get your shit together. I think it's the former, but like I just like the read of the latter, especially because I don't like their relationship. So
Right.
Yeah.
So what happens then is we find out that the fleet that we are fighting by Leaf 64 was actually just a diversionary fleet, and the real fleet, we do some cool space combat stuff, but this is, I'm not going to get deep into it. I could do a 6-hour podcast on the mechanics of space battles in this, but we have to focus on the mechs here or I will get lost. So they slingshot around and they come back for the fight.
We get a bunch of really cool shots here, like the fleet going into formation, the like subspace. They go to warp, are immediately sabotaged, and then the AI forces them out of warp, and they're like, no, we can't go out of warp, but then they go out of warp anyway.
Yeah, something about a plasma cloud leak. This is when they established that radar is useless in subspace.
Yes.
So you're literally flying blind when you're in subspace.
Blind. There's like there's a moment where it's like you pan by the hangar and there's a horrible sloshing noise and you're like, that can't be good. And then it turns out that is not good because it then explodes.
Oh boy. So they get attacked in subspace.
The bioships are super cool. They look like big germs.
They get attached in subspace and they were going back to Earth when they're attacked, right? So again, we go back to the, oh shit, they're coming for Earth. And we got attacked in subspace. Yeah. They get attacked by these, it's so beautiful.
They fire blind in subspace with all the rest of the ships, which I was like, hello?
We have a teenage mental health crisis, code red, because Noriko is in the full Shinji position.
Oh, yeah, she says, and I wrote this down, am I going to die crying like this?
Yeah.
Which just like, can children not be put in wars? Hey, controversial stance. Can children not be put in war?
I'm just glad somebody finally said it. So they have
to do such a good job of making this situation so dire. Like so many awful things are happening.
And they're trying. It's not for anybody's fault.
We find out later that this attack...
They're trying to win and do it right.
We find out later that this attack killed 98% of the fucking fleet.
Yeah.
They love statistics and numbers.
Really bad,
and they're like,
y'all.
by the way, like thousands of ships got blown up is thrown around a lot.
Right. They have a really cool sequence where they go out of subspace and there's a bunch of silhouettes and then they like rise up out of the space fog and they're all alien ships. It's really good.
Meat machines. I love them.
R.I.P. Linda, who we don't know anything about but dies.
Yeah, R.I.P. Linda. Linda is the only reason that Noriko pilots the Gunbuster. Yeah. And it's because her Gundam had a bad knee.
Yeah.
So it's like so Coach is like, okay, Noriko isn't ready to fight. We need a capable pilot and a functional machine. You take Noriko's.
Get in there, Linda.
And so Noriko is like, I gotta do something. But they're like, can we deploy the Gunbuster? And they're like, no, because the degeneracy generator isn't ready. Which for the physics bros,
talk about
the fact that the main weapons in this is called the degeneracy generator it's so good because of what that means in physics and with elemental forms. It's so good.
I thought that Coach had just named that after his relationship with Amano.
Yeah, that's what it's named after.
Call that a degeneracy generator.
Also, apparently Coach has been behind the development of this. He's apparently a very important developer.
I mean. He's 7 guys. He's
Ritsuko Akagi. He's Kaji. He's Misato. Like, he's a bunch of
I wrote down. I'm like, he's an insane character. He's filling like 5 guys' roles due to time crunch in this OVA. He's Coach. He's weapons guy. He's classical Japanese guy. He's logistics guy. He's veteran guy. He's dying guy.
he's everything. So what happens is they're like, okay, we get to they build up to the all hope is lost, but we can't lose the Earth. We're going to ram it, right? We're going to just blow up their fleet with our own ship. And then it's like, Noriko's like, this is where we finally get the Noriko redemption arc, right? Where she's like, I'm going out.
Imagine being the janitor when the captain decides to turn the ship into a bomb. You're just mopping.
I'm mopping.
You signed up for this. Well, you're in the service.
You signed up to mop on the ship that can blow itself up.
Are you going to mop Earth after they destroy it?
They decide to blow themselves up because they apparently have identified a leader in this group of space bugs.
A flagship.
Which is so funny to me.
It's a big one.
This is so funny to me. Why do we think aliens operate in the same hierarchy we do?
Why
would they have a flagship?
That's something they keep running into, is they try and apply human logic to subspace, to the aliens, to romance.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get.
And I mean, it works, but I was like, why?
There are a lot of things in this, like what Nico was saying about understanding Nadesco better retroactively. There's a lot in here that Erica 7 does that's really, really cool to me. One of them is this triumphant moment where she's standing with her arms folded and fires her like forehead laser and kills like a fuckload of. It's super, super cool.
Can we talk about Gunbuster? Its appearance.
We got to talk about Gunbuster.
We got to talk about Gunbuster. The best thing about Gunbuster to me is the fact that it has unidirectional tank treads despite never, ever, ever touching the ground one time.
My favorite part is its default is standing cross-armed. Not arms at the side. It flies with its arms crossed. It fights with its arms crossed. It's so...
You know Gunbuster has a fire mixtape that he's about to drop on you.
That's what I was about to say. It's about to drop that fire mixtape.
But no, she's I have a degeneracy generator, which is as powerful as you having your engine go critical. I'm just going to ram into it and blow it up.
We get an all-timer. I don't know if this is a Gundam reference, but as someone who's been watching a lot of Zeta Suit, I thought it was a really Gundam energy sequence where young Freud is like caught in the crab arms of an alien, and she's just like it's not doing anything, and she's just bashing her baton against it, and it's 2 cells of animation of like the arms raised and the baton down, and it's just going back and forth. It's so funny. And she like looks up and she sees Gunbuster, and she has her anime moment of breathlessness seeing the
Gunbuster is huge, by the way. The mechs we've been working with up till now fit in the palm of its hand.
Yeah.
It's fucking huge. It's got a wild power set. But the thing is, this is something we'll see repeated in Ava. She can only use it for 10 minutes because they haven't figured out the power supply. Yeah. Which is something we see in Ava when they have the power plugs in the mechs. I have a note
where it's like, is she going to Asuka this whole thing in 15 minutes or whatever? Yeah, which she does.
She catches it, it stabs her, but she does the moment.
The fists expand into energy electricity generators, and she punches into it.
So weird.
Something we need to say about Gunbuster, just right at the top. What weapons does it have? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, I don't care what you're thinking of, it has it. That shit that happens at the end of this fucking... It has finger rockets.
Get you a girl who can do it all. I love Gunbuster. I think the design fucking rules ass. There's a thing happening in modern mech where we're putting these like heavy frames on like these chicken legs.
Yeah.
I need less of that. I need Gunbuster's thick thunder thighs. I need more of him.
Is that one of its lightning attacks? Thunder thighs?
Yeah, thunder thigh kick. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I love that it's like 6 cylinders and a rectangle and then like a cool head. I love it so much.
So good.
There's a great shot in this at the end of the battle where she's triumphant. And she's like, One-sama, get in my hand.
Amano is so excited, and she's like, Noriko can stand on her own, and she lands in the palm of their hand, and they hug, and it's beautiful. I cried.
Oh, it was really cute.
This too is Yuri.
Gunbuster victory to credits.
Yeah, that should have been the credits. No.
We get episode 5 is called Please. Please! Time Enough for Love. Which is a weird...
Oh my god.
They've gone back to Earth, and I need to call something out at the top of this fucking episode.
Yeah.
Noriko is a war hero. Why are there not statues? Why is there not a parade? Why is she just... What's happening?
Well, this begged the question for me, how fast does information travel?
Oh, true.
We know that light speed has a dilation, but it's like we don't really know anything about their communication.
Yeah. We got little cool time dilation stuff.
10 years have passed. They are very clear to say 10 years have passed.
That's important to say.
But she comes back and they have a graduation ceremony for her and Kazumi.
Yeah.
Just them. But also they're 17, which they graduated early. Congratulations, girls. You did it.
Yeah, we get a lot of like what humanity plans to do in the face of the threat, which is for a lot of this episode just kind of nothing. Like they're just kind of.
Well, we're informed that they've started building an evacuation
ship. Yeah, exactly.
Ship.
Which is, to me, I mean, that's her classmate says civilians have a 1 in 10,000 chance of getting aboard or whatever. So like to me, that's basically giving up.
Yeah, she meets her friend who is now older and has a child. And that is like they're establishing the world is different for you because you had time dilation. We also see the new battleship they're building, which here's the one that another time when I was like, is this a gag? It is a giant gunpla. It has they're cutting pieces out of giant frames. It's very. I'll put a shot up. It's on the screen, very short, but it's very funny.
It's so funny.
So funny.
We get like a couple scenes of just like Noriko has like some like one thing I thought was actually kind of funny is her classmate that has the kid asks her to try and use her connections to get the kid a spot, and she calls her later and just says, "I'm sorry." That's all we get on that conversation, which I guess means she couldn't do it.
I think it's a really interesting moment of like her former classmate and her former best friend, which I guess they're best friends forever, but specifically asked her to use connections she should have for being in the military. But like Noriko is 17 and Kimiko, her friend, she's a mother now. Their priorities are so different. Yeah. And I feel like this is a dissonance where we really feel that Noriko is 17. Because I feel like she probably called maybe like 2 people, maybe, and was like, can we do anything? No? Okay. She doesn't know how to wield influence the way an adult does. And so all we get is just her calling to say, I'm sorry. It doesn't even look like she tried. Yeah. So there's no way to know if she actually tried.
Well, and then like that
it's interesting.
That feeds into the kind of overall sadness of this sequence, which is just kind of about how Noriko feels isolated due to the fact that the world has basically moved on without her.
I do want to say, I don't think that she said, I'm sorry, because she couldn't get a spot. We are established in a shot that the battleship is only at 10% being finished. And so it cannot be used as an evacuation ship. Mm-hmm. And that's why they have their second plan if we have to go confront the enemy before they get here, because we won't be able to evacuate in time.
Yeah.
Okay. I got that kind of mixed up.
That's my interpretation. It might be wrong.
I thought it was interesting how, like, in conversation with Evangelion, Noriko, like, uses her father as like someone who may have been able to relate to her to project onto like this feeling of isolation. Mm-hmm. And so he kind of is this like possibility space for her to kind of like project her feelings onto, versus like Shinji, whose father is alive and also materially responsible for the fact that he feels isolated. So that was just kind of an interesting.
I think we just need to talk about the worst decision in this entire show. I think we need to get to it.
Is it this shitty conversation with Coach and we find out he's dying?
Yeah, he's dying of anime cough-up blood disease.
Yeah. How did he survive?
Which we later actually find out what it is. But at the time, I was like...
I mean, we do find out what it is. It's like turbo space cancer. But, I mean, all we really have to say about this is, like, Amano is interested in a romantic relationship with him. We don't super know that he reciprocates that yet, but we know that, like, we get a whole thing of, like, him begging them to reconcile and pilot Gunbuster and face the threat, and then he's in the hospital, and then Noriko realizes in the shower that Amano already knew that he was sick, and that, you know, she's sad and carrying that burden or whatever. This whole thing is just, we've mentioned it already, it's dire.
It feels really shoehorned, and it becomes so pivotal to the story that it makes it really frustrating. I cannot believe that
we got a black and white final episode so that we could have this fucking sequence, is what I'll say. I don't understand.
None of this matters.
Yeah, this sequence serves to... It both explains why and also shows why it's stupid that fucking Amano breaks down during the final battle here. So they decided to go grab the Excellion and use it to basically ram the alien fleet. And
it's the captain's plan, and what they're going to do is they're going to turn it into a black hole.
So black hole bomb, Amano and Noriko reconcile. We find out again, Gunbuster is 2 different machines that combine.
Yeah, they have to reconcile because, as it turns out,
they establish it was always meant to be piloted by 2 people, but they're like, we only have one.
Yeah.
And so they have to pilot it together. And so one launches with a rocket booster. So one Noriko is in launches with a rocket booster. And then the one that Amano launches just takes off of a runway. I don't get that.
I wondered if it was attached to the Excellion. That was my thought, is like that was the one that was on the Excellion and they were using its drives, but I wasn't 100% sure. What I was 100% sure about was this line where they're in outer orbit and they're going to jump to light speed. And Noriko says, after this, we'll only share time with each other.
Y'all kids online don't know what queerbaiting is. Y'all weren't alive in the 80s. I wasn't either. I'm just saying.
Okay. I'm going to say this.
Alice was fact-checking.
I was fact-checking something. I was doing some research. So the relationship between an elder sister and a younger sister It's a beautiful thing. No, this whole thing, it tears me apart because up until this point, it's been very like, I mean, they're kids, they're flirting and everything. And then suddenly she's like, I'm in love with Oda. He's going to die and I'm not going to see him. And she's sad about it. And Noriko's like, but you have me. And it's very painful and I don't like it. Luckily, the mecha part of it is cool enough to make up for this.
Yeah, this is when they just do everything.
So we have Amano has a meltdown because she wants to go see her dying lover, and Noriko's like, "No,
She's gonna go back. I need you. Like the time hasn't passed.
I need you here now, in the moment." So we have the twist of the younger sister becomes the one who is strong for her older sister. So it's very Yuri, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Yuri. For those not in the know, and because we brought it up a million times, Yuri is girls' love. It's girls and girl love. It's very flowery. Mm-hmm. It's very lovely. There's not really kissing or anything. It's this connection between two women, right? And so Amano and Noriko have that.
Yeah.
And how that comes to fruition is, I'm going to help you get back to your husband. Let's combine, which is how I'm going to start picking up the ladies.
Yeah, Alice, would you say that it's characteristic of Yuri to lean on the relationship between a senpai and a kohai like this? Like, they use the language little sister and big sister, but one thing that's important to make clear to people who maybe only have blood familial context for that, often it will point towards a older and younger or a more experienced and less experienced.
Yeah, so in Japanese culture, older siblings look after their younger siblings and help them grow up. And in my life, my older brothers beat me up and blamed me for things. Shout out to my being the youngest.
But yeah, I wanted to point out that like a lot is made in a lot of Yuri works about the relationships that are pretty typical in certain settings of an older female mentor helping a younger female navigate a space. And it's like, that makes sense to me. It's one of those kind of the rituals or intricate things.
Yeah.
This is a space where there can be romance if you are looking for it and you're queer and you can see that this is a strong relationship between women. You can look for where there might be more.
And that's, and I like that about it. And actually, I mean, the material conditions of this melodrama suck so much, but one of the things I really like about the sequence too is like the calendar counting down while they're in subspace.
Oh my God, it's so grim. Why would you put that front and center?
I know. There's such a, I mean, it looks like the doomsday clock, first of all. And then like it's it's like ticking down. It's just like the tension and the stakes are just like really, really well like realized. But then, you know, this breakdown doesn't even fucking make sense. She knew what this was.
Yeah.
And I get it. They're kids, technically. But it's one of those things where it's like the childish urge to break from the horse rocket and go onto your dad's old spaceship was powerful and like relatable, and like I liked that happening as like a moment that a kid made a mistake and suffered for it. This is just garbage. I don't care. You know, I don't care. Get to the aliens.
So, and they do. So they go through all of this and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the music in the combining sequence? The tonal whiplash going from the breakdown scene to the peppy, like, yeah, we're combining the robot.
It goes heavy. And we have beautiful scenes of this mech. I want to shout out a couple things because they are just saying action words and pulling out powers we've never talked about, right?
Oh,
yes.
Let's all talk about things we love. I want to say I love Super Lightning Kick, which is like Lightning Kick, but super. And I also like the Buster Shield, which is they pull out a black cape.
They do an escaflowne.
I love homing lasers.
The fingernail lasers?
The homing lasers. Just, that's not how lasers work.
No.
Well, I believe in the power of anime, but even
I have a thing on the Yuri, but I had to look up a fact before. So,
okay.
Early Yuri had the tone of, and Japanese girls' schools of, you can be in a romantic relationship with another girl, but you're just going to grow out of it eventually. It was accepted homosexuality. Girls are just going to date and kiss, and then they'll go and find a man. And that's what this episode pulled for me is like, oh yeah, it's okay that we've been really fucking gay up until this point. Because really, she wants to marry a man. And that hurt me. Okay, continue.
Yuri Bubble is redeemed by toxic heterosexual relationship.
Yes. And I mean, not to be all I've connected the dots, but then Amano is the one that progresses in time and becomes a woman, and Noriko is functionally a child on screen forever.
Yeah.
Yes, they get time dilated apart. The two of them. But yeah, this whole fight is beautiful with this mecha.
Buster Shield is a cape. They have fingernail missiles.
Oh my God.
One thing I want to shout out, Noriko's voice actress, whose name is also Noriko, so her name is Noriko Hidaka, the VA, and Noriko's last name I think is something else. Anyway, she can do one hell of a mech scream. Her combat screams are 10 out of 10 for me.
That's great.
It's so good.
I wasn't even noticing that.
But yeah, they do it. They turn the Exelion into a black hole and
In the solar system.
Off of Jupiter.
I'm like, surely this won't be a problem later.
Yeah, it's not. It totally doesn't come up.
They do this twice where it's like they briefly talk about how this is going to fuck physics up in the whole galaxy and potentially doom everything forever.
But save Earth.
And they're going to do it again and bigger. So it's fine.
No, wait, we have to do the second explosion to fix what we did. The other thing in this is they land at the hospital. They see he's still alive, but
they just land in the parking lot.
What I want to point out,
my blood is boiling.
So yeah, he lived. So all of what she did just was for no reason. But my favorite part is Gunbuster lands just next to a hospital, arms crossed. It comes down arms crossed because it always is. And then it puts its hand out and there's a door in the hand that they come out of.
This mech.
It has everything.
This mech has everything.
This mech is a Looney Tune.
They never show you where the cockpits are because there's two cockpits. There's hers, which is the kind of all around 360, completely stolen from Gundam, just orb. And then the other lady, Amano, is just in a regular ass cockpit. They never establish how any of the inner workings work because Gunbuster is what Gunbuster needs to be in the moment. And in this moment, it has a door in its hand so they can get into the hospital.
I was so infuriated because it's like she runs into fucking Coach's arms. And I had so much hope because to me, I read this moment as she professing her love and he looks down sympathetically at her and then she keeps crying. And I thought that was telegraphing that he was letting her down.
Yeah.
We find out at the beginning of the next episode that is not the case.
No. And Noriko goes and thinks about Smith.
Yeah.
So here's something I want to point out about Smith, her summer romance. She changes her bandana from her original one to the one Smith had tied off.
Yeah.
She has his bandana
I didn't
as
notice
a
that.
keepsake.
That's cute.
It's cute.
That's cute as fuck. My notes so episode 6 is called At the End of Eternity, which is a great name for an episode I felt really blah about.
It's really good.
We open. Amano is an adult woman now. She is at Coach's grave.
She got the widow chop.
She utters the line, Coach, ... I mean dear, comma.
No, backwards.
Oh,
backwards.
Sure. Backwards.
She said anata, dear.
Yeah.
And then she said,
Coachy.
I mean, Coach.
I wanted to rip my fucking skin off, dude.
Brian's having the Freud breakdown I had in Escaflowne.
It's
my notes is the word no with about 27 O's in all caps.
So does anyone want to share the fun fact about this being in black and white?
I wrote down first thing, I said, is this whole thing black and white? And then I wrote, did they lose all of their budget after that bullshit?
I assumed it was a budget thing, but I actually didn't find much about this, so I would like to know.
Okay, so I do have a fun fact about this. Hideaki Anno had them animate this in black and white. This is hand-painted, cel-drawn animation. They did it on color film. Apparently, I think, so that they could achieve the transition to color at the very end. But that meant it was hugely more expensive for them to do this in black and white on color film. Because it was color capable the whole time. This was an aesthetic choice.
It's a bad one.
It's an aesthetic choice I dislike a lot, I think, personally.
Yeah, I think it's an attempt to make this more serious because I feel like the back half of this show is working so hard against the first half.
Yeah.
Like, it really is. I feel like they figured out the direction they wanted to take this show, and then they're like, okay, but how do we overcome the boobs and high school tropes that we did at the first half?
Yeah.
Okay, let's make it black and white like Casablanca.
Yeah.
They do a lot
there
here.
Was some of this stuff. There's some of this stuff I really like. I really like that Amano's the new coach, and when she's saying goodbye to the girls, I thought that was really sweet.
But they call her Coach Ota because she took his last name.
Yeah.
She took his last name.
There's also a wedding photo later that I wanted to gouge my eyes out looking at.
Noriko has it on her
But a
wall.
big thing here, Kimiko's daughter is in high school now.
Yeah.
She's one of the students saying goodbye.
Yeah.
We've jumped basically another 10 years since.
We have jumped 15 years
Yeah,
because
15.
the daughter was 3 the last time
Yeah.
we saw her. So now she's 18.
Also, we're in the future now. So this is the most jump into the future.
And you know because there's a funicular.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a funicular. It's a
I was
cable
going
car.
to
It's
say
a
a cable
cable
car
car.
into space, not a space elevator, a cable car into space. Also,
One cable you have to cut to sabotage this whole system. This is a fucking contraption.
but we do see the new battleship and how technology has advanced by leaps and bounds, while for Noriko, she's still a teenage girl through all of this.
Oh, yeah, because that's when we find out a lot about Himiko's daughter is she gets like a little letter message thing in space.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is so cute is that she calls her Oba-chan, and she called her Oba-chan as like a little girl too, and she's like still like 17, and it's just cute to me that they...
I'm not an aunt. I'm
Yeah,
not an aunt. It's like, yeah, you are. One thing that we kind of went past really quickly, they see on the ropeway up a very important thing, which is the fucking bomb.
Gunbuster
You mean
3.
the super bomb from Metroid?
So Gunbuster 3 is a giant bomb, which we can just say it. It is the condensed remains of Jupiter post the black hole that they've condensed down,
Sir, we are literally under attack by the planet fucking Jupiter.
and they put it into this seal, which has to also be piloted, which Amano gets in the sexiest. The only time we've had a different pilot suit. Sexy pilot suit.
The tit window is mission critical.
And all she does is she goes to where the fleet is.
Oh, I had blocked out that she Janet Jackson's herself.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
had
real.
blocked that out.
So
until
she
you just said
has
that.
been volunteered. She volunteered herself for this. She goes out there, immediately leaves it, and goes and joins her friends. She really was just there to fly it out there. That's it. That's all she did, was fly Gunbuster 3 out there. Again, Gunbuster 3 is a bomb.
Yeah.
It is a black hole bomb. And they explain. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
It's an anal capsule. I was just gonna say it looks like an anal capsule. It looks like the power bomb from Metroid.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like a bullet vibe. We're there.
You should follow our Twitter because I posted an all-timer shit post about what that fucking thing looks like.
But yeah, so the plan here, apparently, they figured out that these insects are nesting at the heart of the galaxy.
Yeah.
And if humanity is going to survive, we got to be a bad enough dude to blow up the heart of the galaxy. And we get this...
There's a scene in the cable car when Amano is going up and she's talking to...
some guy.
Her coach is dead, so we had to get a new guy, right? We couldn't have 7 guys show up.
We need a new guy.
And so he's talking to her, and he's making a very succinct point, which is, if we have to, as humanity, get to the point where we have already made one black hole, and we're going to set off this giant bomb, which is going to, number 1, reverse that black hole, number 2, defeat our enemy forever, and number 3, put us back onto the right course. Is that worth it just for humanity to survive, or should we just admit that maybe humanity doesn't need to survive if this is what it takes? To which Amano responds, I don't want to kill myself.
I can kind of see both sides, but the scale of this, they are literally going to core the galaxy the way that her dad's ship was cored. They're going to take out the heart of it and then leave the rest of it, I guess. Like, it is such an untold, this is the law of large numbers alien theory, right? Like, we cannot be alone in the galaxy because a habitable Earth is statistically improbable, but it is not impossible. And there are like infinite galaxies where that could potentially happen. So like law of large numbers, there are aliens. So all I could think of through this whole sequence is like, we're going to blow up the heart of this galaxy. We are now the threat to God knows how many civilizations that are not on screen. It's all I could think about.
Yeah.
Like, our self-preservation is more important than any other potential. Ugh.
It's interesting because like you get the context clues that kind of tell you all this like hard sci-fi shit that's really, really cool. And then I can't stop thinking about what Nico's saying about how like Noriko's kind of development was stunted by the narrative.
Intentionally.
Mm-hmm. You really feel it here.
Yeah.
So there's an anime movie I want to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about it in this show someday. It's called Voices from a Distant Star, which deals with the time dilation. And I love how they do it in this show. And I think now that I've seen this, I'm like, they just copied that and did a worse version in Voices of a Distant Star. Honestly,
the show is at its strongest when it's really leaning into the melodrama created by the time dilation thing.
Oh yeah, The melodrama of all of it.
Because you really realize that Noriko is totally adrift in time, basically. The only people who are close to her are, at this point, I think, young Freud is the only person who's close to her because they've stayed.
Well, and young Freud is also the one that says, like, you know, if we get back, by the time we get back, everyone we know is dead. Like, we are already ghosts to everyone back home.
Yeah. And, like, one thing that's really powerful in the letter that Noriko gets from her friend Kimiko, there is a image that's like a pop-up kind of animated holographic image.
The screen. That was cute.
Of Kimiko's daughter, of her teenage daughter.
Yeah.
And Kimiko says in her letter, it's like, I don't think you'll be back in my lifetime, but I hope you'll be back in my daughter's lifetime. And all I could think about was the fact that when we see the brief intercut of her dad preparing to die, he's holding an identical type of image of her. And all I could think was, somehow Noriko is the absent father of this teenager.
Well,
wow.
Something
that too is Yuri.
But something that they allude to with that
being a deadbeat dad too is Yuri.
Her dad goes to space. He was also in time dilation. She grew up with a father that was
she's literally in the same
aging
situation
as fast as her. We need to talk on this Mecha podcast about Mecha.
Damn.
And I need to talk about this last battle. So 2 things in this.
No, we got to talk about tits.
2 things.
Well, we get to.
Yeah.
Never mind. Proceed.
We got to talk about the Sizzlers.
Wait, okay. I have to bring that up because that's something I need to talk about a lot. So
I love them.
This last battle, this is when I really just was like, they ran out of animation budget because they start doing like slow shots.
They start just
and
doing stills of pencil drawings and shit.
It's stills. But the actual battle, so we are also introduced to our last new mecha, which is the mass production Gunbuster, which, boy howdy, I wish humanity had that before. We wouldn't have been in such a shitty place.
Oh, yeah.
Is that not what the Sizzler is?
Yeah, the Sizzler, the mass production type.
Which all I could think about was Western Sizzler.
I was thinking about Sizzler Steakhouse, personally.
They're the same.
We have a beautiful fight, and it just, there's a couple things that I love with this. Number one, we have almost nothing going on but stills, and then it gives us an update on how many people have died.
Yeah.
It's like, this many ships have been destroyed. Text over screen to tell us, yeah, there was a battle. There's been a big battle. And so then they are like, oh, the bomb survived. But what happens is the bug aliens start kamikaze attacking the bomb because they realize what the humans are doing. Because they've seen this game before, right?
Oh my god.
This is a really cool. I mean, this is like Angel versus Central Dogma moment.
Oh, it's so good.
It's kind of an all-timer.
I said that, and like, this feels incredibly Anno. This is the horrors of war. This is
and like another thing about the sequence that also feels very him too is like the black screen, white text speaking directly to you, giving you exposition directly.
Yep.
Versus in Evangelion, he deploys it against his own characters. That is a voice talking to Shinji and interrogating him and antagonizing him. It's almost like that's like some sort of function of some kind, of like some sort of figure that we could refer to as the author.
Oh, the author function? Yeah.
Oh my god. Fucking English majors.
But yeah, there's an exchange between the captain and number one.
It's not number one, it's executive officer. Just, I want to be clear.
It was number one in my subtitles.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that was a literal Star Trek reference, but
Probably.
Yeah.
He says, you know, number one, executive officer, do you believe in a god? No, sir.
It's literally Gendo and his boy.
Yeah.
That scene is cut for cut in Eva. Swear to God, it's exactly Eva. Do you believe in God? No, I don't.
It was at this point in the episode I wrote, if you watch episode 1 and episode 6 at the same time, your brain takes a screenshot.
So
this whole shit is wild.
They have to go into the bomb because the bomb has been damaged so that it can't. Basically, how this is working is they are having a bunch of nuclear reactors go supercritical and explode around the gaseous form of supercondensed Jupiter, which is going to cause this to happen. It's a giant gas bomb, obviously. And so they go in and they tell Jung, hey, don't come with us. we'll do this on our own.
Yeah, she shows up by surprise.
She shows up and is like, I'm coming with you.
Well, she was supposed to be on the mission, but she dodges out so that Amano can get on.
Yeah, she literally gives her the keys to the Gunbuster too.
It's wild. Why are there...
Throws you the car keys.
It says
and
Gunbuster
they're like doing it weirdly en route, like on the weird elevator tractor beam thing.
Which, you know,
and
it's
like
the
floating
future.
around.
But yeah, Jung shows up, and I was like, why is Jung here? Just to die?
But okay, so they're talking to her, and they're having a party call between the three suits. And then we show that in the bridge of the ship, they're all watching this party call where they're talking about their feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the girls are basically like, Jung, you've got to go back. You're not going to survive this, but this isn't a suicide mission. We intend to come back. And she's like, you're only going to be on each other's time. Who knows how long it'll take you to get back from the center of the galaxy to Earth? It could take centuries, you know?
Right. So that happens. And then, so how they have to do this is they are going to, they combine one last time in the most Yuri moment of all. Because in Yuri, you gotta die for Yuri, right? So they combine one last time. And then, so in Gunbuster 1, you have a cockpit. It's a 360-degree cockpit, and you have 2 bracelets and 2 leg bracelets, and you're moving your body with it, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of gyroscopic. It's very early mecha anime. And so they have to get to the core of the Gunbuster to do this. And so they have to pull off the armor plating from the front. She has to act that out with her hands. Now, to be clear, she could just use the gesticulations of the hands.
Yes.
But what Noriko does is she grabs her shirt and rips it open.
She fully rips her lapel open so that exactly one breast can expose itself to the world.
You could get a Gynax bounce on one titty.
On one titty.
But then they pull out the core, they rip open the chest. It's a beautiful scene. They're ripping open this chest.
There's a rib cage in there?
There's a rib cage in there.
There's
That's weird.
implications.
Which
but they
again
have to rip
prompts
it
the
out.
question, where the fuck are they in this thing?
They are on the surface of condensed Jupiter where the supercritical reactors are all around, and they have to make theirs go supercritical, which they do. They cut off the generator, put all power into it, and that triggers the bomb. And everybody leaves, and they're like, well, we're going to have to leave them to do what they do and hope whatever. And they just leave. And yeah, it's a beautiful...
Cut to Noriko's abandoned wife.
Right. It's such a beautiful, like, I want to talk about Gunbuster's whole trajectory in this. It's such a perfect ending to what Gunbuster is in this universe, which is this humanity-saving robot. Other robots have come after it and before it, but it is the one.
Yeah, we get them drifting home in the most lesbian moment of all time. They're in the wreckage of
I didn't
Gunbuster.
check the tape. Alice, can you check the tape for me? Is her tit out that whole time?
I mean, after the explosion, you don't see them except for them looking, but they don't show the tit.
I know it's not very long for them, but in subjective time, that's 12,000 years of tit.
Yes, sure. Here's the thing, the real thing, though. It doesn't matter because can you call yourself having your tit out if you are a red ball of astro-projected gay light that shoots out of your back and descends to Earth at the end? What the fuck was that?
I don't know. Well, the big thing we got to talk about, the iconic shot, is Earth when they come back.
I literally teared up a little bit at this. I'm not going to lie to you right now.
And here's why. That was a 20 fucking minute scene. It's so slow.
It's so slow.
I was like, damn, they really did run out of money. Tell us the scene, Brian, because there was a part I teared up at, but tell me.
Well, they're drifting toward Earth, and I think it's like, if memory serves, it's like there's a brief moment where they're not sure the Earth is there anymore because they don't see any lights.
It's completely blacked out.
They don't see lights on the dark side of Earth.
And then, like, one of them says something like, oh, I'm getting, like, the readout of where Okinawa is supposed to be, and they look over there, and the entire either city of Okinawa or country of Japan has spelled out welcome home in the city lights.
But it's interesting because it's in katakana, and they get the last character backwards.
Oh.
So there's almost an indication that, like...
Maybe language has evolved in a fucked up way?
Language has evolved.
Yeah.
Like, did they have to go look this up in history books?
Proportionally, this is thousands of kilometers long. It's huge.
Yeah.
Basically, front and
Gunbuster
center.
is like 350 meters tall, I think. It's huge. So,
But the sign welcoming him back is giant. But that's it. That's the end, and then, yeah, they turn into gay red energy. What I assumed is that because this is now...
There's a transition back to color.
10,000 years into the future.
There's a transition back to color for this, where there's hardly any fucking color. It's so that you can see that their lesbian energy lights are red.
Hey, the planet has a slight blue and green hue, so you know
a slight
life is healing.
hue, yeah.
But I just assumed they had teleportation technology then.
Yeah, that's probably
that was
what
I wanted it to believe.
There's a point where they faked me out, where she says, "I'm sending you this letter, Kimiko, by telepathy," and my note just says, "Is there telepathy?" Because I never knew what the show was gonna do.
That was Gunbuster.
That was Gunbuster. It's
that OVA sure happened to me.
I think we all, in our own ways. I know I sat there for a little while and I was like, "Huh." I think I preferred End of Evangelion.
I immediately went to the show group chat and was like, what the goddamn?
I had a lot of fun for the first 3 episodes of this. And then, yeah.
I think I liked all of it. I think I was very invested, and I think that says a lot about the media, is like, this is an old mecha anime, and I was still like,
yeah,
I want to see where this is going.
There was so much it totally sold me on.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of stuff, like, in the last episode that I glossed over. I couldn't force myself to care. I was so angry about the coach thing that like I had to go back and rewatch that episode today because I was just like, I don't know that I picked everything up. I was just sitting there like, I kind of wish this is over.
I will say I'm headcanoning it, and I believe in headcanoning it, that Noriko is just like, my girlfriend's bi, we can do the poly thing for a little bit, but she'll come back to me in my Gunbuster. So that's the headcanon I'm taking in this.
I just think it's so interesting. I feel like Ono wanted to make Patlabor 2, and what he was trying to build it out of Gundam parts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because it really feels like he's playing with the tropes and the images and the ideas of a different type of show than the one he wants to make. Yeah. And when he tries to force them to fit,
they don't fit. When you get like gritty sci-fi, high concept, philosophical discussion, and you're trying to be self-serious about it, and you front-loaded that with a bunch of like silly pastiche and lighthearted misogyny, all it looks like to me is navel-gazing. I have to be honest in my truth about that. But yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of stuff that I was really, really, really bought out on. I really liked the time dilation melodrama. All of the visual design was spectacular in my opinion.
So yeah, let's rate these mechs. We have like, what, 3 models? Are we counting the Gunbuster 3, which is, we've already expressed, is just a sex toy?
I don't think it's piloted, right? So it's like...
No, it is. It is explicitly piloted by Amano out to the other Gunbusters.
It is. You're right. Well, we've got the RX-7s, which are just like the general mass-produced models.
The ones we saw doing calisthenics at the beginning.
Yes. And as a special one of those, we have Young Freud's, which is just red and has a cool helmet and has a cool red star on it. We have Gunbuster, which is just huge and blocky and cool and has every weapon conceivable.
And some that aren't.
We have the mass-produced Sizzler models, which their head is supposed to look like a specific kaiju. I don't have like the info on that one.
Yeah, there's black and white Sizzlers.
There's also like in the wiki and in some of the screens I was seeing in the specials, there's like ones that are blue and cream colored and red. It's like, why did you make all these cool colors if we only saw them in fucking black and white? It makes me angry. And then
Gunbuster 3, which is a bomb.
Gunbuster 3, yeah, which is just a big butt plug with no flared base, which is how you know they don't intend it to come back out.
I thought it was a suppository.
You're right. That's the term I should use. It's a suppository.
That's going in and it ain't coming out.
So, Alice, what's your overall score? Does it pass?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is now pass-fail.
We've changed the scoring system. So
no, it's a 1 out of 10 still, I think.
What this anime does, what Gunbuster does, is it sets a lot of the groundwork for a lot of future genres. There's a lot of... The mech high school became a trope because of this show. There are a lot of animes that do that. Also, shout out that the mech high school on the roof is an air traffic controller tower so they can manage the mechs, which is very subtle.
That's fantastic.
But it does that. You also get a lot of this story about fighting aliens is extrapolated in Heroic Age, which we will be covering because it's just this if it didn't have time dilation problems because magic. And then there's just so many other genres that were affected by this. And Macross was born from this is the thing that I want to say. Like Macross came from this in a beautiful way that I can never stop thinking of it. As far as the mechs, the RX-7 I love a mass production boy. I love a khaki robot. I love that in the battleship, everybody has their own kind of markings on it. They all have their own kind of flair, kind of like pilots do that with their machines, right? And they're all kind of cool. And like, they're such a functional machine, but people just use them as an extension of themselves. It's not some faux pas. We get the mass production Gunbuster. I'm not going to call it the name of the restaurant, Sizzler. I refuse. It's really cool. The Gunbuster itself, we had a discussion once in our bonus episode about what is mechs, which can a cool robot redeem media? A cool robot can redeem Ruined Yuri for me. I'm going to say that the Gunbuster, with its weapons, its design, how it's operated, the pilot and the relationship with it, what Gunbuster means in this universe is so powerful that I am going to give this. The only reason I'm not giving it even higher is because, everything else outside of the Gunbuster is just okay, not great. But Gunbuster is so fucking good. And this is the story of Gunbuster, even though it's only in 3 episodes. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Nico?
Wow. Fuck alphabetical order, huh?
Yeah.
I don't like mass production units. I'm Alice's dark twin, and she'll have to fight me and defeat me to level up. I'm a meat mech person. I obviously was rooting for the aliens in this, but the Gunbuster was cool, and I did kind of like almost the Looney Tunes logic of it. Like the way that, like, yeah, of course it's got that on board. Why the fuck wouldn't it? It needs to have it on board because it looks cool right now. Like, of course it can do that. Of course it can transform. Of course it can transform only the top of itself into the jet again so that it can be a missile. Like, of course it can do all this stuff. I appreciated the audacity of Gunbuster. You really feel like it has earned a name. It's earned being the iconic unit. Did I feel like it lived up to the grim reality of it being created specifically, or there being a child soldier program created specifically to learn to pilot it? But I thought it was pretty cool. But I actually will say, I was going to rate this pretty low, but the Gunbuster 3, the butt plug, actually brings this up for me. What? Because the audacity of making a bomb out of the remains of Jupiter. Like, when they said that, they were like, what's in here? Jupiter. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yo, Jupiter is in there.
And that is the moment. We talked about it in the What is Mechs episode. The thing that makes a mech cool to me is something that makes me go, what the fuck? Or holy fuck. And I did a holy fuck moment at Gunbuster 3, which just barely qualifies as being a mech. It has no limbs, but it is piloted, and it has fucking Jupiter in it. So I am going to give all of Gunbuster a higher score than I intended to, a 5 out of 10 for the max.
Okay. I love these chunky boys. I love these. Like, I'm not usually a mass production person, but like part of my design scoring is heavily thematically contextual, and I've like touched on this a bunch before. Mm-hmm. But this show is very, very good at eliciting a very specific kind of joy for me, which is when it's a very mechs are bodies thing. It's when mechs are doing things that people do, when you're groveling and your mech is groveling, when you're doing crunches and they have the other mech there to hold down your mech's ankles while it's doing crunches as if it needs ab reinforcement.
It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful, and that is inseparable from the design to me. And then you get to Gunbuster, which is like, it has a lot of Gundam shape language to it. Like, it's got like those head spikes that are kind of reminiscent. It's very blocky like early Gundams. And I'm someone who like notably doesn't super like the Gundams from Gundam. I like a lot of the other units, but this guy hardcore does it for me. I love the thick legs. I love deploying a battle cape for 1 frame and then it never shows up again.
Gotta love the pose.
I gotta give this one a 7 out of 10.
All right, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I do want to say I did right when Gunbuster showed up. I would fuck Gunbuster.
Yeah, that's a secret rating that we all have, but you only rarely get to hear.
What's your rating from 1 to wood? Okay, we're gonna do one more break and then we're gonna play a game potentially quickly because we're running so long.
Hello, it is I, the host this week, Brian, from something like 6 weeks in the future, asking you politely to say nice things about us on Apple Podcasts. And also saying that if you give us 5 stars, I will say thank you. Leave us 5 stars. I might read it. Right now, there's one that just says Slammin' by Big J. I genuinely, some of these are our friends. I'll be clear about that. I don't know who this is. So Big J, shoutouts. Big J, checkmark, 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 checkmark to be specific. I feel like we deserve that. I feel like we're pretty slammin'. So if you feel like we're pretty slammin' too, you might want to shitpost about us at the very least. Leave that 5-star review at the most. My Venmo is Nico bleep this. And that's it. We'll welcome you back to this show where nothing misogynistic happens. Goodbye.
No, you have to do like a podcast passing the baton. You're one robot running in a robot relay in our mechas, and you have to hand me the baton.
No, we are in the magical future space elevator tractor beam, and I'm handing you the Gunbuster keys because you're supposed to go on this mission and not me.
Alice, our time will be aligned.
Our time will be aligned. Let's play a game, guys. So, as Nico alluded to, I am the only one here who has both seen the Top Gun movie and read the novelization.
Oh my god.
Neither of you two know if there's a novelization or not.
Fucking novelization. There's a fucking
This is exactly what I said about Pacific Rim. I hate that this is the Pacific Rim for Alice.
Top Gun is a beautiful story about men being men and pilots being pilots.
Dudes rocking.
And Gunbuster is very influenced Top Gun. So what we're going to do is we are going to aim for the Top Gun. Aim for the Top Gun. So what we're going to do is I need both of you to go to google.com and you can play at home with me. And what I want you to do is type in Top Gun characters. Read nothing but names.
Okay.
In Google, it gives you here's a list of characters with a load more. I need you to load more so you can get at least a couple pages of, like a good 16 or so. There's really not that many characters in Top Gun.
Okay, so it's just the Google search and it shows characters and it's got some pictures. It's got the call sign and it's got the
Correct,
actor.
because everything else I found listed out like facts about them and I don't want to give you that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to go through the list of characters in Gunbuster, which I legitimately am not lying in that there are 8, not including the dad, that have names.
Hey, and not including Linda, unless you included Linda.
We're not doing Linda. So we're going to go through this, and we're going to kind of swap back and forth. I'll pick one of you to go first, and then the other goes after, and we'll bounce back and forth. You have to guess which Top Gun character is the most similar in character arc and character acting as the one in Gunbuster. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And Alice, of course, is the arbiter of all Top Gun knowledge, so...
Yes.
I am now a master.
I have faith in the system.
Yes, trust the system. The system...
You are now the Top Gun.
Moving on.
Wow. Beautiful.
So we're going to start. So number 1, this is going to be the low ball. Noriko. Who is the allegory for Noriko in Top Gun? We're going to start with Brian.
Okay, I want to say the word Maverick, but his name on this list is Pete Mitchell, which is a way lamer fucking name. But that guy, Tom Cruise.
Maverick is his call sign. Everybody goes by their call sign, but they have names. Okay. Nico, what do you think?
The first one listed is Goose, and I thought maybe that was like the main character.
So these aren't in
And I
any
don't
order.
have a better idea. I don't have a better idea. I think it's Goose.
To be clear, you know that Top Gun stars Tom Cruise, right? Do you know what Tom Cruise looks like? They list the names here.
I didn't know if it was a situation where he was like the cool like secondary lead who became more famous because he was cooler than maybe an untested.
I'm dying.
So
I'm married. I've gotten in the boat with Goose. It's me and the Goose.
Brian is correct. 2 points to Brian. Noriko is Maverick. She is a Maverick
Can I just
metaphor.
say, I know exactly one. This is so funny to me. I know exactly one thing about Top Gun.
Okay.
And it's that Goose dies. And so that guess was so fucking funny to me.
So Linda is Goose.
Even worse. Okay. So next, we are going to Amano. So Amano, our lovely One-sama. Nico, who is Amano? in Top Gun?
There's a guy here named Merlin, huh?
There really is. His call sign is Merlin.
See, the mustache makes me want to say, no, that can't be it. Amano is, I hate these men. Amano is Jester.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, let me do.
Because he's a lieutenant and Amano becomes the lieutenant.
This is vibes based only, to be clear to the listener. We're doing this entirely off of vibes on these tiny pictures.
Oh, yeah. You can click the image. You can click the character and then the images tab and look at the images for kind of a vibe check. But that's the most I'll let you do.
No.
Otherwise, you gotta do that little 100 by 100 pixel. Brian, who is Amano in this?
I'm gonna say Charlotte or Charlie.
Okay. Good guess. Good guess.
On the grounds that they both have good hair.
That's good. The correct answer is Iceman. So Iceman's
not on this list.
I don't even have him on this list.
Yeah, Iceman. Sorry, Tom Kazansky, played by Van Kilmer.
Okay.
Oh, Val Kilmer.
Okay.
Who I thought it might be, but he didn't have a call sign.
Well, no, okay, so
you're fine.
So the reason that it's Tom Kazansky is because they are the wingman of Maverick. And they have kind of a competition thing, and it's a...
Oh, they're homoerotic rivals.
Yeah, they're romantic rivals, and...
They're Yuri.
They're Yuri.
Jesus. They're Yuri, guys. So let's go to the next one, which is Jung Freud. Who is Jung Freud in Top Gun? Brian.
I'm gonna say vibe check alone. I'm gonna say Wolfman.
Ooh, nice. Nico.
I think young Freud was there in the interest of diversity. So I'm gonna say that young Freud is Sundown, which, can I say, is a horrific call sign for a black pilot. I think it's Sundown. He's bringing a sort of only black man energy to this cast, and young Freud was Christian. So
yeah. Okay.
She was kind of the diversity hire.
By the way, Airboss Johnson is my favorite Metal Gear character.
I love Airboss Johnson. So the correct answer is Merlin. Because Merlin is crazy, just like Jung.
Just like Merlin.
That's it. That's the whole thing. He's kind of a competer with them. So we now go to Oda. Who is Oda in this series? Nico, you go first.
I thought this was going to be easier because I would just look for the person in aviator shades. Unfortunately, they're all aviators and a lot of them are wearing aviator shades.
Yep.
Who is Oda? I think it's got to be our Metal Gear character. It's got to be Airboss Johnson.
Airboss Johnson. Okay, Brian?
I'm going to say Jester for this one. Because it's between Jester and Viper is definitely the commander guy to me.
That was my also thought, yeah.
So I think it's Jester.
You know, that's good. I like that. I like that a lot. That's a very good answer. Unfortunately, it's Viper.
Bodied.
It's Viper. It's Commander Viper.
Oh, man.
Are you fucking kidding me? Even the mustache isn't saying
The mustache has betrayed us.
Mustache has betrayed us. He is the everyman commander. He's the one who is like, get your shit together, Maverick. You gotta fly with a wingman. You can't be your own pilot.
I wondered why the mechs were paired. Because there was no functional reason for it. Like in Pacific Rim, you're in duos because you need both to take the neuro load.
Because you have a wingman.
It makes sense if they're literally like, okay, this is your wingman. But also...
It's because of same-sex relations, can we be honest?
He's not even wearing aviator glasses. Everything I know is a lie.
Next is going to be our admiral, our captain who becomes... Our guy who just keeps getting promoted by setting off nukes. Tatsumi Toshiro, the admiral. Who is that in Top Gun?
Now that my life has been proven to be a lie, I guess I'll say Stinger. I'm just looking for authority figures at this point.
Good.
Oh, I should have said Airboss Johnson because he is the Air Boss. Damn it.
That could just be an honorary title. That could be his name.
I'll put it out right now. Airboss Johnson is not anywhere on this list. We can cut Airboss Johnson out of this, okay, guys?
I love him, though.
But he's the Air Boss.
He's the Air Boss. He's boss of the air. Okay, anyway. Nico?
I don't know anything anymore. It could be Carol Bradshaw. It could be Meg Ryan. Who could say? No, I guess out of all of these people that I'm looking at, I guess it's Cougar. I'm going to go with Cougar.
It's Jester.
Damn it! I had them backwards.
Yeah, this
That's
one is
horrible.
This one is just Jester. Because Jester is the kind of like, we got to get the mission done, kind of stuck up milquetoast kind of guy.
And he eats sushi.
And he eats sushi.
I don't know these men. I don't know men. You are doing a lesbian challenge level impossible.
I am going to give the point to Brian for that, because he kind of got the vibes from Jester before. So I forgot if I was giving out points, if we were just doing this for fun.
You were, but they're all Brian's.
Yeah. You don't know men.
Brian is crushing it at this men.
I'm good at men.
Okay, here we go. Here's one you might get. Kimiko, her childhood friend, which I just want to say, her saying that Noriko was her best friend to her daughter was like, what have you been doing since she's been gone for 15 years?
I know, make other friends.
Here's a high school friend.
Join a hobby club.
So this one's to Nico first. Nico, who is?
I think it's gotta be, I gotta do this one for women. I think it's gotta be Charlotte Charlie last name. Her last name is not on this list.
Her last name's not on this list.
But I think good hair has gotta be that.
Nice. Brian?
Shout out to Kelly McGillis. This hair is really good. I just gotta say it.
It's really good.
I'm gonna say Goose because even though she doesn't like die, she dies in the sense that...
Oh no, she's fully dead at the end of the series.
She doesn't live for 12,000 years, which I guess get good.
I guess good.
That's my answer.
I love it. This one actually goes to Nico for 2 points because, yep, that is...
Women!
That is Charlie. That is Charlie.
To be fair, there are only 3 women to choose from, and on this list, one of them is a fully old woman who I think that's a selfie. So
yeah, it's more that she just exists around the main character. She's not her own character.
This just confirms that Kimiko is Noriko's forgotten wife, and that is her child.
We never see the husband.
You never see the dad.
Never see the dad.
Yeah, we do. It's Noriko.
Next one, Riko Kashiwara, the bully / gym coach / principal of the school. Who is that, Brian?
Who's the one that seems most mean? I'm going to say Wolfman for this one because he seems mean.
Okay. Nico.
I just want to say his name, and I think we're coming to the end of the game, so Lieutenant Rick Hollywood last name.
Good choice.
Whose real name is Whip Hubley?
Oh.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. This goes double points to Brian because, yep, it's Wolfman. I don't have a picture for Wolfman. It's Wolfman. He is an asshole. He's just an asshole. That's his whole character arc. And lastly, Smith.
Oh, Smith.
Smith Torrin. Who is Smith Torrin in Top Gun? We'll start with Nico. And we'll see if Nico's been paying attention.
Is it Goose?
Brian, do you even want to try?
Is it time for Goose?
Me? No, it's Goose.
It's Goose.
The full points to Nico on this one. I guess Goose 2 different times, I think, and I didn't even think about Smith.
You didn't even think that there is literally a guy who is a wingman who dies very quickly, much like Goose in Top Gun, who is a driving factor for the character's main change.
Poor Sumisu. Rip.
And Tom Cruise had an indirect kiss with him too, right?
Yeah. So let me calculate the scores really quick. It just says here 100 years have passed back on Earth and you're dead?
Is this a tie?
No!
Yeah, sorry.
Nico was looking directly into her ring light when she said that. It looked like she was being abducted, I will say.
Anyway, that's our game. That was fun.
Brian, I think we tied, and I'm so glad to share this time with you.
Our time is aligned. Nico and I are homoerotic rivals now.
Yeah.
Oh, which one of you is going to turn into red light first?
We're synced.
We're synced.
Alice.
God. She'll always find me in the drift, Alice.
I'm so fucking sorry. I also want to apologize. I will never bring Top Gun up on this show ever again. I'm so sorry, everyone.
No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it, and I don't want to hold you to that.
Because it turns out Diebuster is also just Top Gun Maverick.
I don't want to talk about it because I started getting into Gunbuster because of this, and I have thoughts. But which is worse, the Guy Next Bounce or Top Gun? Go.
Guy Next Bounce.
At least Guy Next Bounce has tits.
Damn.
Guy Next Bounce is dudes suck. Top Gun is dudes rock.
Oh, that's so real. Okay, I've joined Team Top Gun. I've joined the war on Top Gun on the side of Top Gun.
We are getting a breaking transmission, which is kind of crazy because radar and communications don't work in subspace. Dear OSG, I'm a highly intelligent space bug capable of faster than light speeds, biotechnical adaptation, manipulation of cosmic bodies, and offensive tactical maneuvering. I noticed some bullshit colonizer/pollutive body cruising through my neck of the woods and smashed him. Now all his friends are doing shit like tearing open reality on us and marrying their high school students. They're on their way right now with the super bomb from Metroid, and they plan on detonating the center of the galaxy. I happen to know, due to the fact that I reproduce via stars, that would have catastrophic physical effects, even for the humans' home planet, thousands of years from now. What am I to do but hurl our celestial bodies at them full force? Am I the asshole? And will I be the asshole if I disable this bomb?
I just want to say I love that Redditors are writing into this show. And I think...
I love that all Redditors are Uchu Kaiju.
First of all, thank you for outlining kind of your situation, your powers, and your appearance. I'm free on Thursday. So if the black hole doesn't consume you, call me.
See, this kind of...
Secondly...
This ties into what I wanted to say about this, which is, look, we can try and fight, but really what humans want is love. And I've seen some shit on the internet, and like, I think people might be into it.
Alice, hentai is the answer.
Hentai is the answer in this situation. Just slowly work yourself into their culture over long times with internet porn about bug girls. Okay? You're gonna need tits for this.
Yeah.
But
you're gonna need tits. Thankfully, they're on the way.
Brian, what are your thoughts on what seems to be a
We've got time dilation. I think you can work this so that you can evolutionarily adapt to having tits for the purposes of making peace with humanity.
I just think humans are just good at waging war. It's one of the few things we're good at. And I think,
I just think that there's not enough credence given to the possibility that space crab was trying to give young Freud a hug.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a great quote. There's a great quote from legendary comic book Saga. The opposite of war is not peace. The opposite of war is fucking. And I just think that we have come to a unanimous conclusion here.
There needs to be a heel turn.
Yeah, listen, everybody thought that young Freud was kind of the one who would have kind of an adversarial relationship with someone and then maybe have more of a conciliatory relationship with them. Have you considered doing that with the entire human race? We're talking rivals to lovers, 100K, 12,000 years, slow burn, AU.
There was only one red dwarf.
Also want to say, I played a lot of StarCraft too. What you need to do is you can't just have one main base, right? The Zerg Rush already failed, so you didn't get them in minute 2. So what you need to do in this case is set up other bases that you can continue to fight. And you might not win immediately, but you can drag it out so that the Marine player, eventually their mom's going to get mad and call them back, because eventually humans might evolve to where they don't want to kill you and they'll realize that they don't need to do this. But
you can't win, but they can still lose.
That's right.
Wow.
I'm going to call humanity's mom on humanity.
I just want to say we really want to open our communication lines, our comm lines to any interdimensional beings of undetermined origin. I really think we are the people to talk to.
And also my personal comm line also.
Yeah, I'm more in the, yeah.
You already said you would fuck a mech. So I don't know. Talk to me from your ivory tower.
Pilots, remember you can reach out for advice from the team at our email, questions@osgpod.com. Non-pilots can send general questions or feedback to the same address. You can also catch up with us on social media. We're generally OSG Pod or OSG_pod or OSG-pod. It's pretty easy to find us. We are everywhere except for Blue Sky because they're homophobic. In 2 weeks, we're going to be discussing
Hard Reboot by Django Wexler.
Yeah, I think that's it. If not, I will edit it.
So until then, goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye. I love you.